Today is Tuesday, September the 19th, 2023. It is 9 a.m. and we are in the community wing of City Hall. If you would all please stand and join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. And following the pledge, you are welcome to remain standing for a moment of silence to reflect, meditate, pray, or pause for a moment. Thank you. The clerk would call the roll, please.
Mayor Alfin.
Present.
Vice Mayor Danko.
Here.
Councilmember Hyder. Present. Councilmember Clufus.
Present.
Councilmember Pontieri. Present. All members are present.
Thank you. With the consensus of City Council, Commissioner Stapleford has an urgent meeting down at the Congressman's office. If we could push his presentation up to the beginning, is that satisfactory with everyone? Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council members. Jordan Myers, Stormwater Operations Manager, and Commissioner Randy Stapleford from the Florida Inland Navigation District. I have the 2023 Annual Intercoastal Waterway Cleanup results for you. Oops. So here we have some pictures that were submitted by our participants that were taken on event day. The yellow shirts that were on the back of your chairs this morning were our volunteer shirts that have our mascot that you'll see a picture of later today. Thank you, Mayor. They are very bright this year. So the event took place on September 9th this year. Our volunteers were suggested to clean up our saltwater canals, the intercoastal waterway, parks, trails, and it was to expand awareness, to clean up after yourself and provide awareness for our environment and how important the intercoastal waterway is to not only Palm Coast but Flagler County as a whole. And we do try to conduct it in conjunction with International Coastal Cleanup Day. And we do meet at the community center. So these are the past mascots that we've had from 2013 all the way up to 2020. We have had a variety. We do try to pick mascots that our volunteers will see in our environment and mascots that are native and either endangered or imperiled species. You can see our last mascot from last year, Wally, the North Atlantic right whale. So this year, our mascot was Torpedo, the osprey. A couple of the options for names were actually submitted by employees' children. So we had Flappy McWings was one of the options, Ozzy, Ollie, and we finally settled on Torpedo, the osprey. We had various social media posts on the city's Facebook page. We had Mascot Monday that provided awareness for the osprey, and also Litter Impacts, Water Wisdom Wednesday, which was done by one of our media employees, providing awareness for how litter impacts the environment. And as Commissioner Stapleford is here, we have wonderful sponsors and partnerships, Find being our most important sponsor, as they've provided over $80,000 in grant funding over the 16 years that they've been a partner for this cleanup. And this year we actually had FCC donate a prize package for our most trash collected. It was such a wonderful prize package that we actually had to include a new most trash collected group prize instead of just one. So it included a reusable bag, a $50 Visa gift card, and a whole portable grill So the recipients of that prize were thrilled about it. So we have a picture here of Commissioner Stapleford and the mayor, and a employee from FCC who brought the prize package. These are some pictures from our volunteers hard at work. So we have some volunteers wearing the torpedo shirt, and then the volunteers in green are actually from one of our Girl Scout groups. They prefer to wear their green shirts, so they're all easily identifiable. And then those in green, I believe, are from the National Honor Society group. You can see some more pictures of our groups cleaning up. And then every year we have our Most Unique Find contest, and find is spelled with those periods for Florida Inland Navigation District. In the middle, outlined in red, we do have our winner, who was Carolyn Whitney, and she found that concrete telephone line marker. Commissioner Stapleford, would you like to speak to that?
Well, if I can, my voice is losing it, but we went out there to take a look at all the unique finds as we have every year, and the mayor and I went out there, and Denise, our city manager, we checked things out and said, my gosh, look at this. Who would ever expect to find something like this close to our coastal waterway? And the young lady there from the Girl Scouts, she found the most unique item a couple years ago, if you all recall, was the gas mask. And she made a presentation which we hope to put these unique finds over at our Palm Coast Museum over at Holland Park there. But the most incredible thing about all this are the young kids. I was going to say that in general here as I give this check. The young kids that get involved in the environment and cleaning up and understanding from an early age how important it is to keep America clean and keep our beautiful city of Palm Coast clean and our county of Flagler. But it's always fun to be a participant in this waterway cleanup.
So some other most unique find entries was this chainsaw, a bicycle, a very large letter E, colorful, I believe that's a parrot, and a rather foreboding fortune out of a fortune cookie.
Good fortune.
So we have the winners. The most unique find, again, was Carolyn Whitney with the concrete telephone line marker. So there's a picture of Carolyn with her Girl Scout troop. The most trash collected group was the Girl Scout Troop 2413 with 1,100 pounds of trash. And then the most trash collected individual was Christopher and Sophia Harrison with 80 pounds between the two of them collected. So they got the individual package, prize package for most trash collected. So this year, in comparison, we had 193 people registered for the cleanup, and overall they collected 1,881 pounds of trash. And we will see you next year, and these are some mascot ideas we might have. We have the cannonball jellyfish, a Florida soft-shelled turtle, and a red snapper. Any questions?
Can we count on the commissioner to organize and work with us again next year for this?
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. And I think that you chose that most unique find because you felt a common age with that Bell telephone piece.
You motivate me every year, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Just one quick comment, based on your comment, that one of the thrills of this event is, of course, cleaning up and all of that, but to have the opportunity to watch families, that means parents and children, working together for the better part of a day in a common task is just very rewarding to see in today's community. So just for that reason alone, it's inspiring to continue this event for the future. So we thank you very, very much, and please thank all of the members of the Florida Inland Intercoastal Navigation District for us. We appreciate them very, very much.
Well, thank you, and I want to say Jordan, who really has the load of the pickup, putting things together, and the staff, and had a large number of staff. I think they may be in the back, some of them, but big support by the staff, and the people behind the scenes always make the big difference and make things successful. So to Jordan and to her staff and for all those who participated, how about a hand for Jordan and the staff?
So just to finish this off, hold that for a second. We will move, there's an ordinance that accompanies this, which you'll be ready in a second. What's that? I'm sorry, resolution. So, Counselor, if you would read that in for me?
Sure. This is item number 12 on the agenda. It's a resolution for the 2023 Find Grant for Waterway Cleanup, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, approving grant agreement with the Florida Inland Navigation District for one waterway cleanup event in 2023, providing an effective date, authorizing the city manager to execute said agreement, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for implementing actions, and providing for an effective date.
Very good. I don't think there's any further explanation required on that.
The check's in the mail.
Okay, you're going to come up in a second. I will open the item up for public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this item at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment. Are there any additional questions from City Council?
None.
Then I would ask for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Danko to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilwoman Pontieri. Any other discussion?
Just a thank you to Find staff and all of our volunteers. An awesome event, and can't wait for next year as well.
Then I would ask all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed?
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Commissioner, could you come up and we'll take a picture?
Why not, Jordan? Jordan, you have any staff? There's one.
She designed a torpedo.
Nice shoes. I think everyone's comfy up here. They look good, yeah. You sure about that?
All right. Oh, no, Angie. Okay, that's fine. All right, everybody look right this way. 3, 2, 1. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, Randy.
See you.
Thank you, council members. We've now moved to the next item on the agenda, which would be public participation. In order for city staff to be able to respond to your questions or concerns, please fill out a comment card with your contact information. The comment cards can be found on the table near the agendas or available from the communications and marketing director seated in the back of the room. Anyone wishing to speak may approach the podium, provide their name, and may speak for up to 3 minutes. Please direct all comments to the mayor. Be concise and to the point. Avoid delaying or interrupting the proceedings, and do not make any irrelevant, impertinent, or slanderous comments. Any person who becomes disorderly may be barred from making any additional comments and may be removed. So with that, I would open up the podium for public comment. Who would like to begin?
Hi, my name is Renee Newton. I'm from 2 Slipper Orchid Trail West. And my question would be if we could hold our comments till after the Cascade presentation. What was presented at the Planning Commission is not exactly what's going to be, so we would like to see a picture of that first. So if it's possible, could we please hold our comments till then, till after the presentation?
So this is for public comment. So City Council has heard. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to address City Council at this time? I would suggest comments on items that are not part of the agenda. It's more efficient if you hold your comment for the agenda item itself, but please, go ahead.
Morning, Jeffrey Seib. I'm here to speak on behalf of support for the city taking into consideration further steps that will serve to insulate the people of Palm Coast against any future negative environmental elements. We need only to turn on the TV or look at our phones to see unprecedented climate disasters occurring on a worldwide scale. Massive fires brought online long-term droughts, flooding disasters never seen before, more and larger hurricanes menacing us each year, and high temperature readings breaking records that existed from when temperatures were first recorded. As an environmental researcher at University of Florida, one of my projects was to assist an international consortium of nations' efforts to increase the agricultural output of sub-Saharan Africa. Much of this had to do with developing strategies for a hot and dry environment. Our results are being utilized in many different parts of the world and USA right now. What's this got to do with us? Well, I think it's only prudent for us to look into ways to incorporate climate resiliency into city operations and procedures more than we already have. The electric vehicle is not going to replace the internal combustion engine for a very long time. Now, we know that there is a relatively small number of EV vehicles in Palm Coast at this time. However, that number will grow as time goes by. So why not utilize low-cost to the city EV programs that will at least give us a footprint in this growing endeavor? At one time, the number of homes with solar panels in Palm Coast was minuscule. Now they are found on homes on almost every street in the city. We can see the city's resiliency changes in our neighborhoods right now. Take a look at the new house being built next door or down the street. The height of the concrete slab is higher in elevation owing to possible flooding concerns due to projections of sea level rise. I think it's only wise for us to look into other areas that would possibly protect us and remediate concerns over any climate-related issues. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there another speaker that would like to address City Council at this time?
Morning, Council. Dennis McDonald, Protect Palm Coast. Mayor, about 3-4 weeks ago, I started to do some research, which was an outgrowth of your appearance on the radio station on a Friday. I believe it was the 25th. And there was discussion in that radio show. It seemed to be all about affordable housing. And that concerns me because every place I go, everybody's talking about the fact that this place is packed in like sardines, and the only people who get any consideration from the city are developers on a mass scale. Okay, and people are wondering how we're going to resolve that. So what I did is that I asked for your emails for a 3-day period, something simple. A day before, a day after, and the day of the radio program. And all I got back was 2 emails. So what I did is I asked the clerk if she could provide for me the text from that same period. And what I found was rather alarming, okay? First off, not to be alarmed, but on the 24th, obviously, you were doing a little prep, and you were asking about the number of units in town in Palm Coast, and that's certainly reasonable. But on the 25th, I found this interesting text, that you had a warm meeting with Rayonier, the largest landowner in this county, okay, and ELM, who I would assume is the engineering company, that the philosophies were shared and clarified. And then further, it went on to the fact that I announced formation of a task force that I will manage. Those are your words. So we all know what happened on the radio station. On the 26th, the thing that really alarmed me, because I'm aware of how 283 units were built down here for the Volusia County Housing Authority, you said, should we bond out elite and develop town center? Okay, so here's what I want, in doing all this, what I came to find out is that there were some communications between you and other members of the city council, okay? And so rather than making the town clerk nuts about that, I would like to ask you to tell us about your communications, ex parte communications would certainly come under the laws of the state of Florida as far as not being able to do that, speaking to other members, okay? And so could you tell us certainly, or get for me those communications that you made, so that I would appreciate you very much doing that, okay? And you certainly are aware of the fact that there are laws in the state of Florida that provide that you not do that, okay? And so, thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. And just to be clear, there were no communications with other members of City Council, and I will follow up with you. Thank you.
Mayor, may I comment on that? To his.
Good.
And with no disrespect to you, Mayor, but regarding emails, I did receive an email from you regarding discussion on attainable housing initiative promoted by Florida Realtors and others. And when I received that email, I responded to you that I was not sure that this was something that we should be discussing privately, that because we had discussed it in council. And I did speak to the city manager regarding that. And I'm not sure, but I think it may have been discussed with our council. But in turn, it turned out that I got a response back from you saying that you're frustrated with this item and that we just have to, it was disregarded at that point, and I received no other
Thank you.
correspondence back. But I did receive from you this printout, which reads, "This is public housing, just don't call it that." Well, in my conversation here at City Council, and I'm very respectful of the Sunshine Law. I feel that I took an oath, and I have to respect this. And that's why I made it clear that I was not interested in discussing this unless it was approved by the city attorney. And I take it that it was not approved. So I just want to make it clear that I need to bring this up in the Sunshine so that this does not come up later on, that it was discussed outside of the Sunshine. And I felt very uncomfortable with it. And when I received this printout from the New York Times, I was quite offended by it, that I received it from you. So I just need to share that with you, that, you know, this is an issue I think that should be made very clear and public here in the Sunshine. And with no disrespect to you, but respect to the Sunshine Laws and to the community and to the citizens of the city of Palm Coast.
I appreciate that. So just to clarify, so you and I had no discussion?
No, we never did.
Good.
We never had a session, and I never actually received any correspondence back. I only received this from you stating that we'll just have to find another way to do this.
Correct. Abiding by the Sunshine Law.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. All right, moving on, are there any other members of the public that would like to address City Council at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I will close public comment. Does City Council want to comment on any items that were brought forward today?
I just want to clarify what Councilwoman Hyder is saying, because it's kind of surprising. Did you discuss this with the city manager and get a response?
Well, I did discuss it with Denise, yes.
Okay.
However, after that, well, when I did discuss it with her, basically in our regular Monday meeting, basically she said that it's not allowed. And then I think she was going to discuss it with the council, with our council, our city attorney. And after that, I really didn't hear anything other than from the mayor.
So I assume you discussed it with our city attorney and everything is good or not good, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to explain.
Yes,
I
please.
explained that, so Mayor Alphen and Councilmember Hyder are both in real estate. And I said, you know, if you have something going on between you, a real estate matter that's part of your private business, that can absolutely be discussed outside the Sunshine. If we're talking about something that may come come before city council, such as if the city council were to someday have an affordable housing initiative or something like that, that would be something that would need to be discussed in the sunshine. It couldn't be discussed outside of it. So, you know, obviously sunshine law issues are nuanced. And because two members of the city council, it doesn't mean they can never talk outside of city council. They can talk about their private business if they're both in real estate and working on a deal together or something like that, that doesn't involve the city or, you know, some type of transaction, they could do that. But I just explained that general speaking about it, even though maybe it's a state initiative, maybe it's not something that the city council is talking about right now, the way the sunshine law works is if it could conceivably come before the city council at some point in the future.
So, and I want to just clarify this, I want to make sure I understand it. If it's something, it doesn't have to be in front of us now, at this moment. It could
That's
be
right.
something that, but you never know what's going to come down the pike, what the future brings.
That's right.
So that's kind of tricky.
It's very tricky. It's
Isn't
very
it-
broad.
isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it
Well,
is.
the reason why I was uncomfortable with it, because we had already discussed workforce, attainable, affordable housing here at council. So to be reached out to have it, discuss it privately, I felt very uncomfortable with that. And that's why I said, well, let me get back to you. And I thought about it, and still, I felt very uncomfortable about it. And that's why I asked the mayor to have you send me an email stating that it was okay for me to discuss this. However, I never received an email.
Oh, I sent an email back to the mayor.
Yeah, but I never received
well,
anything.
I
And
did-
no disrespect to
Yeah.
you either in your situation, but I think that this is something that needs to be discussed.
And again, the document in question is an article from the New York Times
Yes,
newspaper.
yes.
Okay.
And I have a copy of it here.
Yep, so does the rest of the world. Got it.
But like, they're both into real estate. If they were to discuss real estate matters, that's not an issue, right?
Right, yeah.
Right.
You know, general real estate matters, like what's the market look like? You know, general real estate matters in their private business.
And even do business together
But-
is not an issue.
Right.
Okay.
But if it's something that's gonna come before the city council or some type of deal like that, then that would start to move in that area where it would be an issue.
Thank you.
Any other questions from City Council at this time? Very good, thank you.
No, thank you.
Very good. With that, then, if there are, I think I've closed public comment, then we'll move on to the minutes on the agenda. So I would ask for a motion for the minutes of September the 5th, 2023, a
That
business
motion?
meeting. I have a motion from Vice Mayor Danko to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilwoman Pontieri. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Mr. Clerk, have the count.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Same question, September 7th, 2023, a budget hearing. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to
I have a motion from Councilwoman Pontieri. Is there a second? Second from Councilman Clufus. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed?
The
Clerk,
motion
have the
passes
count.
unanimously.
And finally, minutes from the workshop meeting held on September the 12th, 2023. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Danko to approve.
Second.
Second from Councilwoman Pontieri. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Mr.
The
Clerk, have
motion
the count.
passes unanimously.
Thank you. We now move on to proclamations. Our first proclamation, I think we have a big audience this morning, would be for the October 2023 Raise the Pink Flag with the Pink Army, and Councilwoman Pontieri is kind enough to deliver the proclamation.
Crowd goes wild. Yeah.
It is my honor to present the following proclamation. Whereas breast cancer is the most frequently diagnosed cancer of women with over 297,790 new cases of invasive cancer expected in women in the U.S., along with 55,750 new cases of non-invasive breast cancer, and about 2,800 new cases of invasive in men this year. And whereas only 1 in 8 women diagnosed with breast cancer have a family history and 85% have no family history, with an increase in incidence rates since 1990 being predominantly women 50 years or older. And whereas early detection with timely screening mammograms has helped to boost the breast cancer survival rate to more than 2.6 million in the United States, also resulting in a 40% decline in mortality since 1989, with women under 50 seeing a more decrease due to early screening and detection. And whereas Cadmus-Sai MD, a Florida cancer specialist and research institute, has been a dedicated, compassionate, and decorated soldier of Advent Health's Pink Army, as she has tirelessly treated and cared for thousands of breast cancer patients in the city of Palm Coast for 17 years, with innovative therapies such as immunotherapy and access to groundbreaking clinical trials. And whereas Advent Health Palm Coast Pink Army, with the support of the city of Palm Coast and our community, has distributed over $150,000, helped hundreds of patients, and performed over 1,000 procedures in direct support to Flagler County men and women dealing with breast cancer. And whereas the city of Palm Coast is joining Advent Health in the Pink Month Parade on October 8th for a 5K run and a 1-mile pet-friendly fun walk, fundraising efforts stay local and include early detection screenings, wellness and lifestyle resources, and survivorship education programs to support qualified patients that are impacted by breast cancer. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the mayor and the city council of the city of Palm Coast, Florida, that October 2023 be officially designated as Raise the Pink Flag with the Pink Army Month in support of breast cancer awareness, and encourage all women to pursue early breast cancer screening and other possible diagnostic services to avoid becoming one of this nation's mortalities. Signed this 19th day of September 2023 by our clerk, Kay Cook, and the city of Palm Coast Mayor, David Allen. I will say, this is a great event. I went last year with Frontline and was really welcoming, and we did make it for the whole mile. Everybody was in tutus, dogs were dressed up, it was awesome. So, if you haven't been, please go. Please, bring your family or friends. If you don't want to do the run, the walk is a lot of fun. Thank you all for everything that you do. So fantastic.
Good, thank you. That's what I was going to say. No, thank you once again. Over the years, we have, in October, turned Flagler County pink. It looks like we're ready to do that again. And as we said, that's just one of many events that we're going to have. You've listened to the numbers. Y'all hear those numbers, big numbers? You know, we rounded it off and said we helped hundreds of ladies and did 1,000 procedures. I'm going to turn around. Let me give you the exact number.
Tony, turn the mic around.
Great idea. Thank you. Let me give you the exact number. We have helped 597 people through the years. And I think to round that off would be disingenuous to those people to say about 600. Same thing with the procedures. We did 1,097 procedures. And the key to the procedures and the people is that is one day out of their life that they're anxious, that they don't know what's going to happen until they get the results. And then you go through the procedures. We do early screening. We do diagnostics. We do surgeries. And we take care of them. And the key to it is early detection and early screening. There's some screaming that goes on too. Listen, I had to do a mammogram. I don't know how you ladies do it. It's unbelievable. Yeah, absolutely. So please go get screened, get your early mammograms. Cancer can be cured, and that's what we're doing. I'd like to introduce Sean. Sean is our new Director of Cancer at Advent Health. And Sean, come say a few words.
Thanks, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here, Mr. Mayor and council members, to just address briefly what that impact is clinically. Tony highlighted the numbers very accurately. But for me, as somebody who works among the front line of the Cancer Center, I get to see the fruits of the labors of this type of awareness and early detection. This proclamation will bring much needed attention to breast cancer awareness and that early detection, both of which are changing the landscape of oncology care. The proclamation not only spreads the word in the fight against breast cancer, but will also help raise the funds for that detection, as highlighted previously. Because of these dedicated actions, lives will be positively impacted. Thank you so much for this proclamation and taking a stand against breast cancer. Go Pink Army.
Thank you, Sean. He has a big job coming up because we have just announced, Advent Health, we are going to build a 38,000 square foot cancer center, a standalone cancer center in front of our hospital on Route 100. We're going to break ground later this year. It will be open by the end of next year, a standalone cancer center in Flagler County. And now I'd like to bring up my double Ds, Denise and Danielle. Gotcha. You weren't going to, huh?
Hi, everybody. Just wanted to, we're really excited to be part of sponsoring and supporting the Advent Health Pink Army. I'm sure that we all have been affected, family and friends, by cancer. So that's why we're part of it. And we just really encourage everybody to join, sign up. I love that all of the money is local and helps those here in our county, which is so important. And my favorite thing is the pet walk. So pink out your pet, bring them. We'll have judges and all that fun stuff. So please come. Thank you.
It's picture time. Do y'all have any questions about Advent Health and cancer? Call 569-4440. Yep. And there's lots of events all month. So thank you all. Thank you, community. We thank you for your support. I'm sorry. This is important because we get to eat.
So to kick off the Pink Army Initiative, tonight we're starting with Food Truck Tuesday, and Advent Health Foundation is going to be the beneficiary this evening. And the entertainment tonight is going to be the Pink Fire Truck Pull, which is a competition between the Palm Coast Fire Department, Flagler County Fire Rescue, and the Flagler County Sheriff's Office on who can pull the pink truck the fastest. So please come out tonight and support Advent Health Foundation.
Hey, John, thank you. I wish you the very best of luck. Thank you so much. The next proclamation this morning is for a group which, if my information is correct, is the fastest growing home-owning group in all of Palm Coast. As a matter of fact, a member of this group has just been named the Speaker of the House of Representatives of the state of Florida. So I would be offering a proclamation, which is Hispanic Heritage Month. So I would ask everyone in the audience who is a member of the Hispanic community to please come up and join me. And anybody else? There we go. Told you. It would have been my pleasure to recite the proclamation in Spanish, but it's been many years. My old business was conducted entirely in Spanish, and I was pretty good, but I don't want to risk making an error today. So if you'll forgive me, I will do it in English, okay? So it goes this way. Whereas the city of Palm Coast is proud to recognize and celebrate the rich cultural heritage, contributions, and achievements of Hispanic and Latino Americans who have enriched our community with their diverse traditions, customs, talents. And whereas Hispanic Heritage Month is a time to honor the cultures, histories, and vital contributions of Hispanic and Latino Americans to our nation, fostering a deeper understanding and appreciation of our shared heritage. And whereas the Palm Coast Flagler Chamber Hispanic Business Alliance has played an integral role in promoting the economic development, cultural exchange, and social integration of Hispanic-owned businesses within our city, strengthening our community through their dedication and entrepreneurship. And whereas the Palm Coast Flagler Chamber Hispanic Business Alliance has consistently demonstrated its commitment to fostering an inclusive and thriving business environment, empowering Hispanic entrepreneurs, and advocating for diversity, equity, and inclusion within our city. And whereas the city of Palm Coast is committed to recognizing Hispanic and Latino culture and heritage as an important part of the city and its strong, diverse community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the mayor and the city council of the city of Palm Coast, Florida, that September the 15th, 2023 to October the 15th, 2023, be officially designated as Hispanic Heritage Month. And with that, I congratulate all of you.
I didn't think I was going to get emotional, but I did. So bear with me if my tears start rolling down my eyes. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Maria Dowling, and I am the chair of the Hispanic Business Alliance, La Aliancia. On behalf of La Aliancia, I want to thank Mayor Alfin and all council members for the proclamation recognizing Hispanic Heritage Month in our city of Palm Coast. This proclamation recognizes the invaluable contributions and the rich cultural heritage of our Hispanic community in our city. The Hispanic Business Alliance in La Aliancia was created with a vision to build and strengthen Flagler County Hispanic community and promoting the economic growth of Hispanic businesses in Flagler County. This vision could not be possible without the help and support of the Palm Coast Flagler Regional Chamber and Greg Brasse, who could not be here today, although he texted me and he is watching online. Hi, Greg. Hope that I'm doing well. Like many immigrants, my parents came to this country when I was very young. They came with nothing, but with perseverance and hard work, they built the American dream. I was very blessed and lucky that even though I came very young to this country, my parents, both my mother and my father, instilled the cultural heritage, the Cuban-rich cultural heritage of my family, the food, the language, the arroz con frijoles, and the salsa music in my life. As the Hispanic population grows in our community, told you, it is truly an honor here today to stand before you, to come together and embrace the richness that diversity brings to our city, and to celebrate the understanding and unity in our community. Thank you so much.
that, with that emotion, I have to share one other thing. Because I also feel my heartstring pulled. So when I was a very little guy, a very, very long time ago, I grew up in St. Petersburg, Florida. And my folks actually ran and worked with one of the very first adoption agencies to bring children from Cuba to Florida. So I grew up and I understand the emotion that goes with that. So thank you very, very much. So let's everybody welcome our friends and enjoy the diversity that our Hispanic and Latino group brings to our fine communities. Our final proclamation today will be delivered by Councilwoman Hyder, and it is the National Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to make a brief comment on the Pink Army. When we think of the Pink Army, we always think women and females, but we have to remember that there are several cases of male breast cancer. I personally have a friend that has gone through treatments for male breast cancer, so keep them in mind also when we think pink. Okay, I'm very proud to present this proclamation. Whereas, home should be a place of warmth, unconditional love, tranquility, and security, and for most of us, home and family can indeed be counted among our greatest blessings. Tragically, for many Americans, their home is tarnished by violence and fear. Whereas family violence is a crime that transcends race, religion, ethnicity, and economic stature, with one of its greatest tragedies being its effect on our children. And whereas an estimated 4.8 million cases of domestic violence occur each year, tragically killing an average of 3 women every day nationally. And whereas the Family Life Center, the only certified domestic violence emergency shelter and rape crisis center in Flagler County, provided over 56 7,000 hours of services to victims in the past year. And whereas each October, the formal recognition of Domestic Violence Awareness Month allows the community to acknowledge and show their support for the victims of this horrific crime. And whereas Flagler County Advocates Alliance, comprised of the Flagler County Sheriff's Office, Victims Advocate, the Flagler Beach Police Department, Victim Advocates, the State Attorney, Victim Advocate for the 7th Judicial Circuit Flagler, and Family Life Center, and the Flagler County Domestic Violence Task Force membership are committed to confront this crisis and are working together to increase public understanding of this problem and mobilize community efforts to end domestic violence in Flagler County. Now, therefore, it be proclaimed by the mayor and the city council of the city of Palm Coast, Florida, that October 2023 be officially designated as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and to urge all citizens of Palm Coast to become a part of the community response to end domestic violence, and to send the message that this crime will not be tolerated in our community. As we spread awareness of domestic violence in our community during the month of October, we recognize it takes the entire community to stand together and make a difference. Together, we can break the cycle and impact the lives of future generations. Signed this 19th day of September, 2023, attest Kaylee Cook, City Clerk, and the Mayor of Palm Coast, David Alphin. Thank you. And thank you, ladies, for all that you do in the community to support our men, women, and families of domestic violence.
Good morning. My name is Trish Giacconi, and I am honored to be the CEO of the Family Life Center here in Flagler County. And I have with me so many of our community members that help to provide support to victims. So kudos to everyone here that does this work. And I wanted to be very considerate of time, so I actually wrote some notes so that I wouldn't go off on a tangent, because I've been known to do that a couple times. So I just wanted to share with all of you, in addition to the numbers that Council Member Heitner identified, the Family Life Center responded to several hundred crisis calls, providing over 5,500 crisis hours of counseling. In addition to that, we partner with the City of Palm Coast for the Community Development Block Grant. And with that grant, we have been able to provide support to over 40 residents in relocation, safe, independent relocation. And that is a testament to the partnership with the Family Life Center and our council members and our community. So thank you very much for that. With that said, I'd also like to tell you that as a small organization, and I know that our friends over at Advent Health are very excited about their cancer center, the Family Life Center is a very small 2,600 square foot shelter. So it could fit in that proposed cancer center about 100 times over. With that said, we continue to need your support. And that means that if you're interested in volunteering your hours, please give us a call. If you're looking to donate clothing, food, toiletries, remember, anything that you use in your home, we need in our emergency shelter, just exponentially. We have averaged 129% occupancy this past year, which means that we have been overcrowded the majority of the year. So your support is integral to the work that we do. And thank you so much again for everything. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Could you please give us the address where donations can be made?
Oh, you're so wonderful. Yes, I can. By the way, it is not the shelter address. That is confidential. But we do have a public office, 4721 East Moody Boulevard. It's catty-corner to the Target Shopping Plaza over on State Road 100. And you are welcome to visit our website at www.flcfv.org. Please, by all means, give us a call, visit us, stop on by. We'd love to talk to your group about domestic violence and healthy relationships, and we always welcome any donations, especially money.
And thank you to all of you for your hard work and dedication to this cause.
Good morning. My name is Candace Wilkie. I am the Domestic Violence Services Coordinator at the Family Life Center. So one of the things that we wanted to share with you all is what we have going on throughout the month of October. Over on the table, there are purple ribbons for each of you to take, and we would encourage you to wear them throughout the month of October. As we raise the flag for pink, we are asking the City of Palm Coast to join us in lighting up the city in purple. So if you can light up your homes in purple lights throughout the month of October to raise awareness for domestic violence, we would greatly appreciate that. We don't want to compete with pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month because both are extremely important causes. But 50 years ago, just as breast cancer was a taboo topic and nobody wanted to talk about it, so was domestic violence and sexual assault. Today, breast cancer is a common conversation in homes, and we would love for sexual assault and domestic violence to have that same relevance in your homes, because there is no shame in being a survivor of domestic violence or sexual assault. So please join us in all of the activities that we have going on to raise awareness throughout the month of October. All of those are posted on our website, our Facebook page, and then we invite you all to join in our half-day conference on October 20th. It's called Rise Up Against Domestic Violence. It is a free conference where you can learn more about the effects of domestic violence and how it affects children and all aspects. So there are 6 sessions that are offered 3 times throughout that day, and we would love to have you come. It is being held at Daytona State College, Palm Coast campus on October 20th. Thank you so much.
motorcycle group, law enforcement motorcycle group here in Flagler County. This is Peter Deckhart. He's our vice president. Pat Del Sordo, our secretary. And then Bruce McDonald is a founding member of the Blue Knights here. We are here to present the Family Life Center with the $1,000 check. That's what we're here to do. That's why we're interrupting, and we're sorry.
You're not sorry. Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Squeeze in a little bit more on this side, Blue Knights. All right, look right here, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm gonna take one more. All right, here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Thank you. Absolutely, thank you. Good job.
Thank
Blue
you
Knights.
so much. Yes, ma'am. Oh.
We don't have a presentation, so we're okay.
We'll now move to the next item on the agenda, which has some administrative components, which will be the appointment of 4 regular members and 2 alternate members to the Code Enforcement Board. Do you have want to give a description or?
Just an overview for you, Council. Just an overview.
Okay.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council, Virginia Smith, Barbara Grossman. There are 4 openings on the Code Enforcement Board and 2 alternate positions open on the Code Enforcement Board. The only requirement for the positions for the Code Enforcement Board, if possible, are to make sure you have an architect, a business person, an engineer, a general contractor, a subcontractor, and a realtor. Currently on the board, you do have a business person and an engineer. So the other positions of an architect, a general contractor, a subcontractor, and a realtor, if possible, would be your choices that you could pick. There are 6 applicants and there are 6 positions open. We will do a voting tally this morning for each position that's open for you to pick. The applicants will come up with an opportunity to speak to you, to tell you who they are, and a quick overview of why they would like to be on the board, just to introduce themselves to you. And if you, after that, if you have any questions, then you can ask them questions if you so choose.
So the task for City Council is to choose which applicant will be appointed to which seat because of the numbers?
Correct.
Understood. So
Yep.
would
So-
the applicants like to come forward?
Yes, we're going to, each applicant will come up one at a time. The remaining applicants will wait outside. I'll bring them forward
Okay.
for each position. So the first applicant will be Gennaro Arcamone. You can go to the podium, and the other ones, if you could please join me outside, I will bring you back in.
Hey, Virginia, are all the applicants here this morning?
Sorry, yes. There is one applicant that is not here today, and I emailed all of you to let you know. The reason he can't be here today is he is with his 2 new grandbabies out of state. But he did want you to know that he would still like to be an option for the board.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
Good
Thank you
morning.
for coming up. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Name is Gennaro Arcamone. I've been a member of the Code Enforcement Board for the past 6 years. I would like to be reappointed. So,
The only question I have is there a particular, which seat would you like to be appointed to
the seat I'm holding right
that you're currently holding? Good, okay. Are there questions from City Council? Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Mayor, City Council. My name is Jonathan Andrachek. I've been in Palm Coast for just over a year. I guess I just kind of found out about these different buckets they put you in. I'd fall in the business bucket, although I did recently start a business. But I'm 42 years old, married with 2 kids. I signed up for several boards in Palm Coast, and this was the first one that came up. Just because I want to serve, I want to volunteer, I want to get involved. I care about this city, and I just thought this would be a good way to kind of understand the city, the workings. And my background, I've got quite a diverse background. My main area is in tax. That's my current profession. I'm a tax accountant. I'm an enrolled agent, but I mean I go across the board. I'm a licensed arborist, believe it or not. I've done landscaping, I've done tree work. I've been a missionary in my past. I have a master's degree in theology, a business major, kind of a crazy background. I've traveled to over 25 countries, and so just happy to apply for this and, serve our city, and just wish you luck in choosing the best applicant.
Thank you. Questions from City Council members?
Just, where are you from originally?
From Connecticut.
Okay, Connecticut, understood, thank you.
Yep.
Welcome to Palm Coast.
No questions, thank you.
Question, I failed to ask the prior candidate, so you're fully aware of the time commitment, and that works with your schedule?
Correct.
Very good, thank
The
you.
monthly meeting, yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Charles Dean Roberts, currently Vice Chairman of the Code Enforcement Board. I wish to be reappointed to the Code Enforcement Board as such. Any questions?
How long have you been serving?
Over 5 years.
Over 5 years?
Yes.
Very good. City Council members, any questions?
You asked the question I was going to ask.
Very good. Well, we thank you for your service. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Larry Pulis. We moved to Palm Coast 10 years ago. We own a home here. I'm a retired educator. I also have a background in healthcare administration, which I did for several years. And I'm also a small business owner that's retired from that. I own property and did rental property and things like that. I've been on the board for several years, and it's really kind of comic relief sometimes for me because of some of the cases we get to hear and some of the discussions that we get to have. So I enjoy being on the board. I'd like to be reappointed to the board and look forward to your decision. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you for your comments. Any questions from city council members?
I have none.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Merritt Zuka. I live in the Belterre section of Palm Coast. I've been a homeowner since 2011. I've had family here since 2000, and I've been a permanent resident for the last 8 years. Prior to beginning my current career as a real estate agent, I was a business professional in hospitality and human resource management. I possess knowledge and skills necessary to make informed and good, fair decisions regarding violations. Being a realtor who regularly traverses the city, I believe I'm exceptionally well suited for a role on the enforcement board. My profession has provided me with unique perspective on housing market and factors that influence property values. I believe in maintaining the beauty and integrity of our city, which is why I'm dedicated to ensuring that all residents and businesses adhere to the local codes and regulations. With each of my buyer transactions, I provide the customer a copy of the top code violations booklet, and I give them a description of what it's like to live in Palm Coast. Thriving neighborhoods and well-maintained homes not only benefit homeowners, but contribute to a vibrant and attractive community overall, which will attract more business-minded and quality-minded residents. Some of my qualifications: I have a dedication to this community, I align with the values of the Code Enforcement Board, and I'm ready and excited to serve the city of Palm Coast in this capacity and ensure our community retains a great place to live and work. Thank you.
We thank you for your comment. Any questions from city council?
You're aware of the time that you'll need to spend on this?
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Good, thank you.
Mayor, City Council, the next will be voting, and you will vote on each seat position. So the first seat that you will be voting for is Gennaro Arcamone's position.
I'm sorry, just go ahead, pass that out. Just so we're as balanced as we can be with regard to the requirements of the code enforcement group.
Yes.
And Barbara, do you have any guidance or comments before we move forward?
No, the decision is completely yours.
Very good, thank you. Okay, which seat did you say this is? Okay.
I'm sorry, so we just picked one out of every one?
Yes. So we have Mr. Arcamone's seat, Mr. Pulo's seat, so we'll
Oh,
do
I
each
see.
round separately.
Okay, got it.
Can you specify which group
Of
the
course.
seat is in?
Yeah, if it's right up top on
It's
the
on
sheet,
top
if you
of
look at the
each
top
form.
of the sheet.
So we're talking seat District 2, right?
Up top it says seat for Mr. Gennaro Arcamone.
Yeah, but is it a?
It would be, yes, it's actually District 4.
But what is it? Is it a?
It's not related to districts. This is just for Mr. Arcamone's seat, and then we're going to go to Mr. Poulos' seat. Then we're going to go to Mr. Dean Roberts' seat.
Okay, got it.
And then Mr. Sullivan, who did not want to be reappointed, will go to his seat, and then we'll go to the two alternate seats.
What I was getting at, there's different classifications of seats.
Yes.
Mayor and Council, we received 5 votes for, to reappoint Mr. Arcamone. So now we'll move to Mr. Pulos' seat.
Thank you.
We've received 5 votes to reappoint Mr. Pulos. The next will be for Mr. Roberts.
Mr. Roberts has completed more than 1 term, so it will require a 4/5 vote from council.
We've received 4 votes to reappoint Mr. Roberts.
So that's 4/5 that's required, correct?
Yes. The next round that we're going to do is to appoint for Mr. Sullivan's seat.
Thank you.
So your options for Mr. Sullivan would not include Gennaro, would not include Charles Dean Roberts, and would not include Mr. Pulos. Your options would be Mr. Andrzejczyk, Mr. Stansel, and Mr. Zuka.
Say that again, please.
Mr. Andrzejczyk, Mr. Stansel, or Mr. Zuka are your options for this position.
Sorry. We received 3 votes for Mr. Stansel and 2 for Mr. Zuka.
Thank you.
Now you have 2 alternates to choose from, and your remainder would be Mr. Zuka and Mr. Andrzejczyk. So you could choose those 2 as your alternates and have a vote for those 2 as your alternates.
I'm updating your sheets for you.
You don't have to do a vote for that. That can just be a verbal vote because they're the 2
So
remaining
we have,
alternates.
we have 2 positions, we have 2 volunteers, and there's no, do we have, let me have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
A motion to appoint those, who are they? Nope.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Zuka and Mr. Andrzejczyk.
Okay, to Vice Mayor?
Alternate
Yes.
Very good. Do I have a second? I have a motion from Vice Mayor Danko and a second from Councilwoman Pontieri. Is there any additional discussion?
Just thank you for everybody for your work, your volunteer, your contribution to our community. We appreciate it, and especially those who have been reappointed. Thank you for your time served as well.
Very good. No public comment, right? And with that, I would ask all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Does the clerk have the count?
The motion passes
Thank you.
unanimously.
If the sports book was this easy on the weekend, we'd all be able to retire.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, and we move now to item number H on today's agenda, which is ordinances of a second read, number 6. If council would read our item into the record.
Sure, this is an ordinance, sorry. No. Sorry, I think that the ordinance for the annexation got into the ordinance for the comp plan, so I'm seeing, oh yeah, they just got mixed up on the agenda, they're just in two different places.
Okay with that? Do you want to skip and come back to it?
I think it's being continued.
This next order is one for the Palm Coast Park
Yeah.
PD agreement. This ordinance, Mayor and City Council, the applicant has asked for continuance of this item.
Okay.
And we will re-advertise this item when it's ready to do.
Okay, do you need to read that in now, as a reference? Or you could do it later?
No, we can continue it now, I don't have, I'll read it in when it comes back for second read.
For
so I
second
don't have
read,
to
okay.
it now, yeah.
Mr. Tyner, thank you. So and that's a time certain, or they're going to apply for
we will
another?
re-advertise.
Very good, thank you. Okay. Then we'll move forward with H7, which is the voluntary annexation of, go ahead.
Sure, this is an ordinance regarding annexation of Old Kings Village, application number 5362. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, to annex property to be included within the corporate area and city limits of the City of Palm Coast, providing for the annexation of approximately 62.11 acres of property described in Exhibit A to this ordinance, and lying in the areas proximate to the existing city limits of the City of Palm Coast, Flagler County, Florida, providing for annexation in accordance with the voluntary annexation provisions of Section 171.044 Florida statutes, providing for annexation of real property, amendment of corporate city limits, providing for rights and privileges resulting from annexation, effect of annexation upon land uses, providing for effect on ad valorem taxes, providing for effect on businesses and occupations, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Counselor, if you could just clarify for me, the decision before us today is strictly annexation.
That's correct.
Annexation means or is limited to?
The determination for annexation.
In layman's terms.
The determination for annexation is set forth in the statute, and really it comes down to whether or not the area to be annexed is compact and contiguous to the municipal boundaries. This is not a quasi-judicial determination by the City Council, it's a legislative determination, so it's within your purview to decide whether or not you like this area within the corporate limits of the city.
This is a geographical consideration. There's nothing beyond that for today.
Yes, for today. When subsequent to the annexation, this property will have to come back to get a comp plan amendment and a rezone to switch, if you do approve it today, to switch from the county designation to a city designation.
Very good.
Council, may I just ask a question? So when you say it's
Sure.
within our purview, does that indicate that we have a wide range of discretion as to whether or not to annex this property in?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Papa, are you delivering the
Mayor, City Council,
review?
this is a second read.
Yep.
We put a map just to remind our citizens where this is located, south on Old Kings Road. It's approximately 62.1 acres. We The staff analyzed it per state statute, and there was nothing added to the item from a staff point of view. It meets the state statute for annexation, but I do believe the applicant has some words for city council would like to address.
Okay. If the applicant would like to present?
Certainly, Michael Schimento for the applicant. When we were last here, there was a request by the city to have the developer guarantee or commit to making some improvements that would address the neighborhood's concerns at this point in time. Council suggested a voluntary agreement. I had sent in the other day a copy of that voluntary agreement that is before you that we're happy to execute, that memorializes what our commitments are at this point in time. Tonight at Planning Board, there will be a rezoning and comprehensive plan amendment, so we are moving forward with that. We anticipate that it'll be at your next 2 week schedules, your meeting to hear that, and then it'll be sent up to the state for review. And then right on its heels, and as part of your review, your staff's review right now, we actually have a site plan application or conceptual master plan application. And so this is moving its way through, but I know Ms. Pontieri wanted something at this point in time to address the concern. So before you is that agreement.
So with those comments, Councilwoman Pontieri, do you have questions?
Well, thank you, first of all, for talking to the developer and being willing to do this. I haven't seen this yet, so I would just like a minute, Mayor, to read this over. I don't know if it wasn't sent. Was it sent to anybody else? Okay, so if I could just have just a minute. Mr. Chimento, I appreciate it. Thank you. Are the exhibits that you referenced in here somewhere in the packet, Exhibit A and Exhibit B?
No, they're not part of the packet. This is,
Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, these are just the a form of the commitments. I mean, when we talked last time, we talked about making sure that there was a fence to privacy. We had met, I believe, a Monday and a half ago with them, had a nice meeting with them, and continue to work through this process with them. They had some concerns about buffers between the two developments. A fence, we'll work with them on landscaping those to minimize any site views. Obviously, they have access. That issue is resolved as a matter of law, so that's taken care of in their covenants and restrictions. And then before you, next month, there will also be the rezoning that has the 2-acre commercial in front of it.
Yeah, so that's one of my concerns, is that the commercial reference is missing. So is it your?
You can add that if you'd like.
Okay, I would like to add that. And then when you say buffers, I understand there was originally some natural vegetation that was supposed to be planned in this community. Is there, does the developer plan on retaining those natural buffers, or is there any change that's in the conceptual plan at this point?
I'm not aware in the existing PUD about existing buffers. We put in there, they had requested a fence. We've agreed to put that fence in there, a 6-foot fence, and we'll continue to work with them. I don't know that we've gotten that far down the road with hard design, but we are in that process actively with your staff.
Okay, and I understand you're here on behalf of the developer. Is the developer here?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to hear from the developer, because it's my understanding that when an attorney speaks on behalf of a client, it can't really be considered evidence for our proceeding. So if we could hear from the developer, just from the standpoint of agreeing to this.
Is that at the developer's pleasure? Do we have the authority to
No, when we
require
hear-
the developer to come forward?
Well, that's for quasi-judicial matters.
Right.
Annexations aren't quasi-judicial, they're legislative, but I mean, you can ask to speak to the developer. And I do have one quick question. As it pertains to the commercial, what are you talking about adding in there? Because we can't make any, so the rezoning is gonna come before you, and it's gonna be, rezoned as commercial. So and this is an agreement that the
Correct.
property owner or the developer is entering into things they will do voluntarily, not a part of the rezoning, because it's going to be a conventional rezone instead of a PUD. So there's no conditions attached to those. So, I mean, I guess I'm a little weary because they have a request in for rezoning already. I know you guys haven't seen it yet, but a portion of that request is like 2 acres to commercial. It comes to PLDRB tonight, and I know that because I'm going to be at the meeting tonight.
Correct. And if the council, for some reason, doesn't approve the rezoning, the existing
Right.
PUD and comprehensive plan
So,
is still binding on it. Yes, sir.
Counsel, so the reason for my question at the beginning, so we're stepping way past the definition that I understood. In other words, there are several considerations that will happen over a timeline here. We seem to be talking about things that are not pertinent to this moment, but things that may happen tonight perhaps, or sometime in the future. Is that the correct way to proceed now, that we should be talking things about might happen in order to create a decision today? I'm just confused by that.
Respectfully, Mayor, since we do have a wide range of discretion with regards to annexation, we have guidelines, not elements, when it comes to annexation. So it is within our purview, as directed by council, to either grant or deny an annexation. And one of the things that we agreed, the first time this came before us, we tabled it. The second time, we heard from many members of the neighborhood, and the applicant. And they've been very gracious to work with the neighborhood and us. If I'm ready to move forward on this annexation within my discretion, I do want to make sure that the neighborhood is being considered and that their property values are not negatively affected by this new development coming in. That matters. So from the perspective of granting an annexation, I absolutely do think that it's prevalent at this time. I understand that normally this might be putting the cart before the horse in other scenarios, but with regards to the discretion that we're granted for an annexation, I don't think that that's the case in this scenario. Okay. That being said, if the current application does preserve 2 acres of commercial, I think that that is sufficient, because that already indicates that they're preserving the 2 acres of commercial as requested.
And my only comment back would be, I think you've indicated that you have some way to value some future property, which we know nothing about yet, as an effect on existing property. I'm unable to do that.
Council did the same thing when we talked about backyard chickens. So if we can do it there, we can do it now. I mean, I don't see that connection. This council specifically stated that one of the reasons they did not want backyard chickens was because it would negatively affect the property values of people's homes.
Comparing chickens to houses, okay.
Yes, I am. If we're going to make the decision to not grant something based on it dropping property values in one scenario, we absolutely can do it in another.
The only concern I have from just legal perspective is that, the law is pretty clear that you can't mix zoning and land use with annexations. But we are committed to making an application for rezoning to provide 2 acres, if that's how we want to get around it. I mean, we're here to work. However you all need to feel comfortable, we're willing to move forward. And again, hopefully be back in a month before you with the comprehensive plan amendment and the rezoning. I mean, remembering that this property already has entitlements and a project approved, has a preliminary plat approved. So if the council for some reason doesn't approve comprehensive plan change or rezoning in the future, we have a project that has 36,000 square feet of commercial, 200 something units, and doesn't provide the buffers that they're looking for as of right now.
Thank you, and I thank the applicant, the developer as well, for working with everybody. And is this agreement part of the record for today, Kaylee?
It can be.
It is now.
Okay.
That he submitted it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Questions from the developer?
I'd like to thank the community for working with the developer and the representation, but I think the commitments do suffice for Councilwoman Pontieri's request, which I think is phenomenal. This is a little different than historically some of the requirements that we've had on annexation versus actually rezoning, but if we want to put them attached to this on the front side of this, I'm okay with that as well.
Councilwoman?
I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I want to thank the developer for working with council, especially Councilwoman Pontieri, and great job. Thanks.
And I would just comment, I appreciate the support of the community itself, and I think they're well aware that this process has several additional steps, and I would hope that you would stay tuned in and make your comments known, either emailing us, calling us, and or coming to public meetings as this process rolls forward. This is really that very first step, and there's a lot more to come, so I appreciate your attendance today. And with that, if there's no more discussion up here, I would open it up to the public for any member of the public that would like to address City Council on this issue. Yes, sir.
Bob Addick, own property in Polo Club West, appointed by our HOA to speak on this matter on behalf of the HOA. I would love to see the letter, if it is a letter of concessions that are being made to placate our HOA. I think that'd be great if we could review that, especially if that's being put forward as a reason to annex today. You know, it is my understanding that water and sewer would be provided to this development with or without an annexation into the city of Palm Coast. So we have to be aware that the developer would like to annex to get this rezoned to single-family residential to eliminate the requirements of the PUD, of which minimum building sizes, natural and enhanced vegetative buffers, amenity centers, things that are actually really beneficial to property values in any development. So we are going through an annexation process. We then have to turn around, and at 5 o'clock today, I have to go to a planning and zoning and continue to have these conversations, you know, asking for what, you know, we hope protects the property values within our, I mean, this is literally the front door to our development. We have to drive through it to get to the back. I think it might be pertinent, prudential. We should probably have some more discussions about what the developer is willing to make concessions on before we go through the annexation and let the cat out of the bag entirely on this. We'd love to see it. We'd love to see some cross sections of what these buffers are going to look like. These were things that we did discuss at our community meeting last week. We thought we were going to get them before today's meeting. Perhaps some more time needs to pass and we can get some of those things, and just, if we're going to use a discretionary annexation, maybe we can get some of these things in today. Turning around and going to a planning and zoning meeting, planning board meeting this afternoon, it's quick. I feel like it's unnecessary. We haven't seen anything. All we've heard things. We've seen nothing. There's nothing been in writing delivered back to us. We all invested in this community with this Old Kings Village PUD, which has been in place for 16 years. People are investing their life savings into the community of their dreams, which is Polo Club West. Got $20 million in real estate with private citizens' money spent on that behind those gates. And all of that money was spent with Old Kings Village PUD up front. And what we're doing now is the first step in eliminating that PUD, completely wiping that off what was already agreed to, and changing it forever. And we're never going to get it back. And it just seems like a good time to slow down a little bit and actually come to an agreement between the two properties. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your comment. Is there another speaker? Yes, sir.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, City Council, thank you. My name is John Duncan. I also own property in the Polo Club West, located at 36 Steeplechase. I'd just like to add to what Bob said. This is more than just an annexation of a vacant piece of property. It's vacant land now, but this is basically an erasure of a very complex PUD to be replaced by land development codes. So all of the protections that we had, all the vegetative buffering, all the recreational areas, all the minimum lot sizes, the home sizes, all that is going to be erased by this annexation and this change. So while we're not against the development, as I mentioned last time we were here, we just feel, as Bob said, there's a lot more that needs to be discussed. The PUD was originally designed to be unified with our property, to make the two properties work together, and it was extremely well done. We did have a town hall meeting last week. It was well attended by the Polo Club West members. We had some good discussions, but we were told that by the end of last week we would have some conceptual drawings of what things were going to look like, walls. You know, we're not talking about just a PVC vinyl fence being thrown up and saying, okay, done. You know, vegetative buffering, both not only on our side but on the Old King side. I mean, so that you've got a nice, you know, aesthetic pleasing spot there. We have seen nothing. I mean, what you saw today, Councilwoman Pontier, is the first that we've even heard about, you know, our original discussion. So all I'm saying is put yourself in our spot. You know, we did our due diligence. We purchased in that development based on what we saw out front. We looked in the surrounding community to say what's going to happen in the future. And we made our decision based on a PUD. That property was since sold, and that's fine. I mean, those things happen. Changes happen in real estate, we get that. But we don't feel at the Polo Club that that means that all of this should just be thrown out the window, and all of a sudden the land development codes take, eliminate all the buffers, all the protections, et cetera. So, as Bob said, this is a complex process that I think needs to be addressed at this point. If you feel that it needs to be annexed now, possibly give direction to the staff and say, look, address these issues, get serious about it, let's write them down. That's our feeling. If this really needs to happen today, then let's take that into consideration. Look, developers will come, they'll go, they'll come up with, different money-making concepts, but we, the citizens, are the ones that have to live with it. So we appreciate your help with that.
Thank you for your comment. Are there other members? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Laura Biddle. I live at 67 Steeplechase, also in Polo Club West. Excuse me. Most of my comments are in reference to the community meeting that we had last week. We received minutes from that meeting, of which some of them were not accurate information and incomplete. So back to what Bob and what John had said, I would like to have more time spent in reference to what we're looking for and our expectations are in reference to working with the developer to make it a comprehensive community for both of us. So basically, I would just make more time before you annex it so they can follow through on some commitments they've made. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to comment on this item at this time? See. One time.
10 seconds. The enclave, an annexation, are there continuous city boundaries? I know we have a 50-foot county right-of-way on the north side, and everything else around it is county road. So I don't know if, is it adjoining other city property? So that was it. Just wanted to.
All right, if there are no other members of the public that would comment on the agenda item at this time, let's come back to City Council for discussion.
I would just ask representation for the developer to speak about the commitments that they made at the community meeting. I think that that's pretty pertinent, and I feel like that should be, if it was promised to be deliverables, then that should be addressed by representation.
Are you referring to the comment about the minutes from the meeting?
Yep.
I'm not
and
familiar with what
the
they're
commitments
talking
for I assume, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but images or imagery about potential barriers as far as fencing or natural shrubbery.
Correct. So in that meeting, our responsibility between myself and the engineers that were there to take notes about what was discussed and share that with staff. I thought they were accurate. If there's a change in them, we'll be happy to talk about it. But as it relates to that buffer, yes, the developer has committed to empowering their engineer to design a buffer and share that with them during the site plan, to which the intent is so that if you're familiar with the property on the eastern boundary of this development, there will be a fence and a landscape buffer so as to minimize any site view between the two projects. One of the things that we couldn't answer at that time is we did not know from a survey data or engineering data what the width of that buffer could be. So we're working on that. If we made a representation that it was going to be provided that Friday, maybe there's a misunderstanding, but it just takes time. We have to go out and do survey work and design. But we are committed to working on that, and we recognize that that is probably one of the number one issues for the community.
Is there any way that you could provide more insight onto like what an appropriate timeline for producing that material might be? That did seem fast, getting something to them by Friday on a meeting that occurred on Monday, but is there a timeline that is more reasonable that they could expect to have that type of deliverable?
Certainly. If I misspeak about timeframe, how engineers and surveyors have to work through this, by the time it gets back to you all at City Council for a comprehensive plan and rezoning, we'll have that resolved or at least studied those issues. We'll go back right after this meeting and have another meeting with them to readdress some of their issues. But by that point in time, we should have a clear understanding of what these things look like. Remember, presently we're working with your staff on the site plan, which is engineering, which has survey data work and line work and those types of things. So probably by November, we can have the whole thing resolved with them before it gets back to you for approval.
Understood. I appreciate those comments, and I'm just curious how the rest of the council will digest that, but I think some type of discretion with annexation dependent upon that may be somewhere in our purview, but comment?
Mr. Kloof has asked the question I needed an answer to, and I'm good.
So I just want to make one comment. Generally, I appreciate the members of Polo Club West coming out, working with the developer respectfully, and I appreciate the developer's work both with me and them and with staff. I don't want to discourage this type of collegiality in the future. So I understand that all of the answers might not be provided at this point, but based on where we are at this point, I want to encourage developers to work with us and members of the community in the future. So I will weigh that as I make my decision. And I do encourage staff, as was suggested, to take into consideration what these members of the community have asked for, take into consideration the fact that the PUD did exist, that they did invest in the community based on that, and that as we annex property in, we do not want to earn the reputation of changing the integrity of the original intent of that property once it's annexed into our city. So I hope that my colleagues will consider that, and that staff and the developer will consider those comments as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So my comment is pretty simple. So I am troubled by the cart before the horse, which is why I opened with my question to the attorney. I would, with the consensus of City Council, ask staff to make sure that City Council members are aware of the specific requests that the community has asked for. What I heard today were rather general concerns about things that are not yet known. I don't know what those are. I would like to know what their specific concerns or asks are. Annexation today does not prevent that discussion and does not prevent City Council from reviewing and weighing those specific requests and voting in the future, you know, for or against the project. I'm not comfortable, because time is money, you know, making another delay about things that are unknown because they were rather liberally or generally spoken. I'd rather see the detail. So that's how I'm looking at it, which I think helps both the developer and the community, and it gets us sooner to the point where we can look at each other and decide whether or not those requests are appropriate or doable, and a developer would agree to them. That's my feeling. I would look to you if that would be okay. I'm not asking your vote. I'm asking you about staff making sure that they identify and communicate to us what these specific requests or objections are.
I concur. The specific deliverables would be certainly helpful, and I think you nailed it with your comments.
Okay. So with that, I would ask for a motion.
Yeah, I think we have consensus on what you just said, so I think
I
we're good.
saw a lot of that, yeah.
I'll make the motion to proceed.
Okay, so Vice Mayor's motion to approve the annexation ordinance today. Is there a second?
I would second that.
Councilman Kloufis has made a second. Any further discussion? So let's roll call.
Vice Mayor Danko?
Yes.
Councilmember Hyder?
Yes.
Councilmember Kloufis?
Aye.
Councilmember Ponteri?
Yes.
Mayor Alfin?
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0.
All right, we now move down to item agenda I, ordinances of the first read. So, Councilor?
This is item number 8 on the agenda, and the Cascades Comprehensive Plan Amendment, application number 5109, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, providing for the amendment of the City of Palm Coast 2035 Comprehensive Plan as previously amended pursuant to Section 163 Florida statutes, amending the future land use map designation for approximately 330.8 acres of certain real property from residential low density, rural estate, and conservation, these are Flagler County designations, to residential and conservation, City of Palm Coast designations, as described in more detail in the legal description, which is an exhibit to this ordinance, and adding a note on the future land use map to limit certain subject area to be called the Cascades Planning Area, 375 acres, to a maximum development of 850 dwelling units, providing for conflicts, ratification of prior acts, codification, severability, and an effective date.
Thank you. Who's delivering the presentation?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, Ray Tyner, Deputy Chief Development Officer. This property was recently annexed in August. So, you know, the next step as part of that process is that we do a comprehensive plan amendment and a rezoning of the property to correlate with the City of Palm Coast comprehensive plan and zoning. So items number 8 and 9, Mayor, we have one presentation. Mr. Papa will discuss the comprehensive plan amendment, and Mr. Hoover will discuss the zoning amendment, and of course they would have to be voted on separately, sir.
Mr. Papa?
Good morning, Mayor, members of City Council. Jose Papa for the Community Development Department. First part of this 2 applications is the comprehensive plan amendment. What we have is, in its entirety, 375 acres of subject property, 330 acres of which was subject to a map, are going to be subject to a map change on the comprehensive plan due to its annexation in August. 45 acres, which we call the hook piece, as you can see there, it looks like a fish hook, which was previously annexed in 2019, but will be part of this amendment where the policy will limit its development of this 375 acres to 850 dwelling units. So as you can see from the current future land use map, really not a big difference. The yellow represents a residential designation, except in the case of the 330 acres outside of the fish hook, that's a Flagler County designation of rural low density, of residential low density. And there are nibbles of green there, which are conservation within that property. The zoning map to the right tells you that the 330 acres currently has a designation of Flagler County Planned Unit Development, and the fishhook piece in neon green, that's a designation of new rural communities, which is essentially a PUD also, limiting development to 1 dwelling unit per acre. So this is the proposed future land use map. Essentially, everything becomes residential within that boundary. And so within that 375 acres, there will be some additional conservation areas, a total of 67 acres, as you can see in neon green, within the boundaries of that 375 acres. And again, those would be designated as conservation in the future land use map, and will have a similarly compatible zoning designation. And again, a note on the future land use map to limit development to 850 dwelling units. As previously stated, this proposed amendment will be an increase in the in the entitlements allotted within that 375 acres. The limit of 850 dwelling units is an increase over the 416 dwelling units which was permitted within the approved PUD. And as you can guess, with any increase in development potential, there is also an increase in demand on public infrastructure and facilities. And as we go through the process of development review, when we get to the plat and site plan review, we will look at each of these public facilities and review the ability to accommodate that number of units as proposed within this project. Again, 850 is a cap, so whether it's 850, it'll probably be somewhere close to 850, but not exactly 850. Again, that's going to be done at the time of a plat or site plan review, another process we have as part of our development review process. For environmental impact analysis, there are no environmental conditions that would significantly be impacted by the proposed flume amendment. There are some areas of special flood hazard areas really on the periphery of the site. There is the designation of the optimal wetland areas again within this site as conservation. That will be another 67 acres being preserved as conservation. And of course, with any development, any wetland impacts would be permitted through the St. Johns River Water Management District or Army Corps of Engineers if there are jurisdictional wetlands. Actually, the Water Management District reviews that too. For its consistency with surrounding land use, the designation of residential and conservation is generally consistent with the current land use designations and uses in the adjacent areas. To the north is part of the Grand Landings Master Plan development. To the west are conservation areas which are owned by the county. To the south, you have Seminole Woods Boulevard, but of course south of that are some of the original ITT quarter-acre lots being developed for single family. To the east, we have lands owned by really ICI, one of their subsidiaries, but there's also Flagler County Schools lands to the east. So it's consistency with other comp plan policies, again, providing for land use patterns which will be efficient. Again, that really leads to proposing development where you have public facilities available. Designating urban densities and intensities where central water and sewer lines are available. And again, as part of our conservation policies, where you have large interconnected, really high-quality wetland systems and other high-quality environmentally sensitive areas, protecting those as conservation. So in conclusion, the findings, you have the availability of public infrastructure, you have wetland areas to be designated as conservation, the designation are consistent with the surrounding land uses, and you have a site-specific policy to limit development to 850 units. The Planning Board held a public hearing on this item last month, August 16th. You had several neighbors spoke against the project, concerns with the loss of privacy due to the multifamily areas across Seminole Woods Boulevard. At that time, the Planning Board recommended approval to the city by a 4-1 vote. So the recommendation again from the Planning Board was to find application 5109 consistent with the comprehensive plan and recommend that City Council approve the Flume Amendment from residential low-density rural estate and conservation to City of Palm Coast designation of residential and conservation, along with a site-specific policy to limit development on the area to 850 dwelling units.
Good morning, everyone. Bill Hoover from the Planning Division. As Jose mentioned, you can see in the sky blue area that we have a planned unit development that with a Flagler County designation as well as the NRC. And to the north of the subject property is the Grand Landings MPD. Most of those lots in there are SFR1 and 50 foot. To the east with the lime green, you can see AC, that stands for agriculture and conservation. Additionally, to the east, there's more NRC in the neon green. And then between the two legs of the PUD, where it touches onto Seminole Woods Boulevard, the NRC there, I believe that's the school board property. And then to the west, you can see that there's additional PUD, but then just past the narrow sky blue area, you can see sort of like a question mark. That's the Integra Woods multifamily apartment community. And then as you approach down to the intersection of Seminole Woods Boulevard and US 1, you've got COM3 high-intensity commercial. And then a little bit to the west, the purple area, that's part of Flagler County, but it's actually designated industrial. So what they're proposing is 67 acres going to preservation or PRS, and that's shown in the evergreen color. That's the same area that is being designated conservation on the future land use map. And then in the tan color, you can see all the SFR1. And then in the dark brown color, you can see two multifamily residential 2 projects that they're proposing along Seminole Woods Boulevard. So a little history, JTL Grand Landings purchased the 45-acre Fishhook parcel back in 2014 and was later annexed in 2019. They want to rezone their parcel to SFR1, so we got co-applicants in this case. Burn Dog PCP LLC purchased the remaining 330 acres August 2022, and they want to rezone theirs to MFR2, SFR1, and PRS, or preservation for those evergreen areas. So as previously mentioned, so they got 375 acres with 850 homes at a cap, so the maximum density for development would be 2.27 acres, two and a quarter homes per acre. The Cascades PUD was approved way back in 2005, and 416 homes. So altogether, that PUD had 696 acres. In 2005, I labeled on there as conservation uses, so they deeded over, the owner deeded over to Flagler County the conservation areas so they could be maintained or whatever by the county for the future for public use. And so if we take the 696 acres of the PUD and add the 45 acres, we have a total project area of 741 acres. And if we looked at 850 homes proposed over this whole big area, it's about 1.15 homes per acre. So I think we've probably seen a lot of the SFR1 over the last year or so. Those are 50-foot lots on, wide lots on 6,000 square foot. So they're typically about 50 by 120. The minimum home size is 1,200 square feet. And then the maximum density is 7 units per acre. And then going over to the multifamily, the development size would obviously meet the 4 acres. The minimum living area for a multifamily unit is 650 square feet, and their density is 12 units per acre. So these are the 5 review criteria from section 2.0505 of the Land Development Code, basically saying that it needs to be in the public interest and not have significant liability or hardship on the city, needs to meet the Land Development Code and the comprehensive plan, and needs to comply with all government standards. So we reviewed it for these 5 criteria, and we provided pretty detailed findings in the staff report. A brief summary is that it will not create a nuisance hazard or any compatibility issues, as the proposed uses will be compatible with single-family homes across Seminole Woods Boulevard due to the required 25-foot Type G landscape buffer along the MFR2 area to be developed. Additionally, just on between the landscape buffer and the 80-foot right-of-way for Seminole Woods Boulevard, there's actually a 40-foot drainage easement in there that the city maintains. So the MPD amendment supports 4 goals, policies, or objectives of the comprehensive plan. We attended the neighborhood meeting, and there was 8 neighbors there, and the applicant was there as well as staff. And basically, the key concern was the people living directly across Seminole Woods Boulevard had concern about the multifamily being in close proximity to their houses. So if they have a pool, there, you know, there's a 15-foot setback after the pool. There's the 80-foot right-of-way, the 40-foot drainage easement, and then there's the landscape buffer. And then after the landscape buffer, you can put the multifamily homes at that point. The planning board held a public hearing on this item. on August 16th. I believe 2 members from the public spoke. They were both located directly across the road. They brought up the same comments that they brought up at the neighborhood meeting, concern about the multifamily being close where they're in their backyard, that the multifamily have 2 or 3 stories typically, and those people might be able to look in their backyard. It was approved by a 5-0 vote. Now, since the planning board, the applicant tried to address that concern about the neighbors. And so what they've done is, on the left is the drawing of the proposed zoning that went to the planning board. On the right is what they proposed since then. So the MFR2 area has went from 47 acres to 52 acres, and the applicant's attorney is here and is going to explain the basis on why they did that. So the next steps for this project, there's a lot of them. So the Flume Amendment, if approved, would go to the state agencies for review and comment. There would be a second city council hearing for both the Flume and the rezoning. Okay, when the single family comes in on a subdivision master plan, it goes to the planning board, and then the engineer turns in a preliminary plat and construction drawings. Normally, the construction is done first of the infrastructure, then the final plat comes back to city council. However, the technical site plans, any technical site plan for the multifamily is going to have to come back to the planning board and city council both, because those will be, if they're 2 separate ones, there'll be at least 100 units each. Now, if they do a townhome project on one or both of those, that would be a subdivision master plan because the townhomes have platted lots. So that would just go to the planning board for review. And then finally, staff would review any building permits. The Planning and Land Development Regulation Board determined the Cascade rezoning application number 5107 was consistent with the comprehensive plan and recommended approval to City Council to rezone 375 acres from the PUD and NRC zoning districts to the SFR1, MFR2, and PRS zoning districts. And the applicant's representative is here and will comment on those changes since the planning board.
Okay, since this was presented with the comp plan with Mr. Pappas and then with Mr. Hoover for the rezoning, I'm going to have the clerk just swear in everybody now. So everyone that's going to be speaking as to this project for the comp plan or the rezoning, if you could just take the oath as our clerk will provide you now.
If you will be testifying, sorry, excuse me. If you will be testifying on this item, please rise and raise your right hand to swear or affirm the oath.
Yeah, members of the public too, if you're going to speak also.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You may be seated.
And so this was presented together, so then I'll need to read we'll need to take 2 separate votes. First for the comp plan amendment and second for the rezoning, but I'll need to read the rezoning ordinance into the record. This is an ordinance regarding the rezoning application number 5107, the Cascades at Grand Landings. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, amending the official zoning map as established in Section 2.06 of the City of Palm Coast Unified Land Development Code for 375 acres of certain real property described as tax parcel identification numbers 30, 12, 31, 0000, 01020040, 3112, 31 01070, 0030, 32, 12, 31, 06, 50, 000B0, 0020, 29, 12, 31, 0000, 01010, 0021, and 29, 12, 31, 0000, 01010, 0025, generally located on the northwest side of Seminole Woods Boulevard, about a half-mile northeast of the U.S. Highway 1, and being more particularly described in attached Exhibit A, from Flagler County designations of planned unit development and new rural communities to the single-family residential 1, multifamily residential 2, and preservation zoning districts, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Thank you, Counselor. You're going to give us an explanation on the change that was made.
Certainly. Michael Shimento for the applicants, plural. If you can keep this map up, as you can see, this is probably what I'd call the last infill parcel in this part of Palm Coast. About a year and a half ago, the city of Palm Coast changed the property at the southwest corner to commercial and multifamily 2. It was talked about at that time that it would be a shopping center with other amenities for the community so that people in that region wouldn't have to travel all the way around. One of the other things that draw your attention as to why this is infill is directly to the east, the 2 NRC parcels are being discussed with the school board on locating a school in this region of Palm Coast. So we're actively talking to them. I think they're trying to figure out what their plans are. But it's an attempt to try to put these properties together in sort of a holistic community feel. Around to the east of us even more is the entrance to Grand Landings as well as the Citation Boulevard that is coming across. And there are parcels there that have about 250,000 square feet of commercial. So as you can see from Citation Boulevard down to this area to the end of US 1, there'll be commercial areas at those terminuses. And this parcel is the last of sort of finishing out what I call the 2004 Grand Landings concepts. This project was approved in 2004 or 6. It sat on the books for a great period of time, and now we're working on bringing it to fruition. Part of the benefits of this project is that we will provide emergency access to this area of the community through our spine road so that Seminole Woods Boulevard and Citation can connect in events of emergency. So it'll be all managed by a community development district, which has interlocal government powers with you and can work with you on that. As it relates to the difference between the two, Planning Board found the one on the left, consistent with the comprehensive plan, and because of the comments at the Planning Board meeting as well as our neighborhood meeting with them, many of the residents were concerned about their view and what would happen to their view. So what we've done to address that is we've presented to the city staff a concept. Can you go back one more? I'm sorry. Sure. So you see where the difference is, the little area that it sort of kicks out to the east. That was expanded, but really what that was intended to do is to guarantee that we won't have development. Meaning, we have in front of the city staff right now the next drawing. In that area, we are committing to provide a significant building setback from the right-of-way, as well as landscaping. But on the eastern part of that, you can see there won't be any development in that area. That area will be stormwater ponds and natural vegetative buffers for the multifamily piece. So what we've done, we've shifted things around so that that area on the eastern side of the road can all be buffered, landscaped, and ponds, so that the residents in this area, when they view our entrance, won't see any homes and they won't see any multifamily. Again, building setbacks are 150 feet from the 40-foot buffer. So you can see from that drawing, I mean, we're hundreds of feet away from adjacent residences and hundreds of feet away from the existing right-of-way. Presently, we're working with staff to upgrade city utilities in the area. and trying to think what else, and working with them on right-of-way and lighting. So that kind of addresses those things, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have or that the community may have.
Questions from city council members?
No, I appreciate the amendments here to create, that's what's literally hundreds of feet. That was concerning that people will be able to view from the multifamily developments into people's backyards, but I feel like this satisfies that. I'd love to hear what my other fellow councilmen think, councilwoman as well.
I would echo Councilwoman Pontieri's comment earlier on the prior agenda item about the developer and the community working together. This looks like a fairly significant shift in the original plan to address comments, although few, that were made at the planning board, which is, I think, what we'd like to see even more of as we go forward. So I do appreciate that. Councilwoman Pontieri, any comments?
I don't have any questions for the applicant. My only question for staff is the 650-foot minimum living area, minimum square foot living area. Is that delineated somewhere in our code minimums for that?
Were you asking about the MFR2 standard for 650 square feet? Right,
Yes, sir.
that's been in the land development code for at least the 9 years I've been here.
Okay, so is that the minimum then? I want to just
Yes.
make sure we're in compliance. Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
I have no questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Does that complete your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Then if there are no further questions right now, I will open this up for public comment. So those of you that would like to make public comment, please come forward.
Good morning. I've been a resident here since 2011.
Do me a favor, just announce yourself just so we have it for the
Oh,
record.
I'm sorry. My name is Joelle Almeida, and I live, actually, my house is on there. One thing I would like to say, first of all, I never received the letter, and I have 2 young girls. I've invested my time and my family's time here in Palm Coast, and this upsets me. My bus stop is right there for my children. In the last 3 weeks, there's been 2 accidents on that sidewalk. I've called Imagine School, and they have been so accommodating for us to move the bus stop to a safer area. I don't even want to know how this traffic is going to look. My girls can't ride their bikes. I can't run. And this is how it is currently with all the houses. I know the city is evolving, which is fantastic, but I'm asking to move in the right direction. If I wanted to live in Daytona, I'd buy in Daytona. And to me, this is becoming Daytona. So thank you for all your service. But please, if you have grandkids, if you have kids, if you're gonna have kids of your own, would you like your house to be in that gray area like mine is? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Okay, again, I'm Renee Newton from 2 Slipper Orchid Trail. Okay, so I happen to be one of those houses across the street, only one street back from that. So first of all, I guess the applicant is not here today?
Make your comment, go ahead.
Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to say thank you. If the applicant was here, I was just going to say thank you to the applicant for considering to move back the multi-residence dwellings, because at the Planning Commission, they lifted and changed the regulation from 35 foot up to 60 foot. And they said they were going to put 16-foot trees in front to take away from that. But if you subtract 16 from 60, we still have 44 foot of building to look at. So I would just ask the city council to consider taking that back from 60 foot back down to 35 foot for the multi-residence buildings. Let me see what else. I guess that's it.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Joy Cook. I live at 1 Slipper Orchard Trail. I'm going to be immediately affected by this because my house is, I would assume, north of this. So the natural buffer that they're planning on is not going to protect my view of a four-story apartment building. If you look on that map, sir, you'll see that the street that he's showing has a buffer there. My house is directly, no buffer in the back of my house whatsoever. So let me go to my statements. I just wanted to show you about the map. My house is on the other side of what they're proposing. If they're gonna do this, they need to do that on the other side as well to protect that part of the neighborhood. Okay, I'm sorry, let me continue. Okay, we went to the community meeting. At the community meeting, we were told that there would be townhouses, not apartments. And everybody stated there who was at the meeting said, no apartments, no apartments. No, it's townhouses, it's townhouses. And these gentlemen were there too, so they'll verify. If they're not lawyers, they'll verify that was said. Okay, where am I gonna go? Oh, look at this, okay. I also never received a letter, and I'm gonna be 80 feet away from this. This is gonna be directly in my backyard. I won't be looking at, I'll be looking up. Okay? The sign-in sheet that they told us was actually misleading to us. We were told that there would be previous meetings being emailed by the city. We never received anything, any meetings or anything else. It was just to show attendance. Okay? We feel we are being misled by inaccurate information from the developer and from the attorney, and just we feel like nothing is being held there to hear our complaints, our concerns. Okay, what else, let me see. The impact of this in my house will be, and other neighborhoods in there, will be traffic noise. Our home values will go, crime will happen. It already happened. A guy ran right through the new development area last week, a berry picker. We had 13 cop cars around us, the wildlife, the water system, flooding, school pollution, privacy. That's the main concerns. No one can predict the future, and they can't say that the systems will be updated to accommodate all of this. If approved, we are requesting that the setback on all this area be at least 150 to 200 back off the street. Make Integra Woods your example of what should be down there. Nobody needs to drive down there and see an eyesore. This is gonna hurt our property value. Not only the ones who live on the Seminole Woods are gonna lose that value just because we're on a main street. Now we have this eyesore to look at directly through our backyards. We need to have it set back a lot further than, with natural vegetation. Okay, my other thought is, again, is this something that you'd want to see in your backyard? Do you want to walk out every day to go to your pool and all of a sudden there's a four-story apartment building you're looking at? I'm sorry, my time is up, and I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is George Martins. I live at the moment in Connecticut. I do own a building or a house in Palm Coast for 13 years. And one of the main reasons I bought in Palm Coast is I want to stay away from multifamily in Connecticut. That's one of the reasons. Now I come down here, I find out this is going on across the street from my house. I go, this is ridiculous. I'm trying to get away from one thing, and I walk into another. So I'm asking this board, if possible, I will give my name and my address. When this multifamily starts being built, I want to be notified, because the first thing I want to put my house is up for sale, and that's it. Because I think, I'm not against the builders building one-family homes, but multifamily, please, everybody knows when you put a lot of people in a small space, what happens? I think everybody knows. I don't have to tell anybody. So I would appreciate it if you let me know, because I will not come to Palm Coast. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there another speaker that would like to address City Council at this time?
Dennis McDonald. My comment relates to indirectly to this project, but all the new projects that you are approving, okay? Has there been any consideration for water? Water is primary. We all know that, okay? If you approve this project and if you approve all these other new projects, do you have enough water? You're going to be able to sustain this. My knowledge of what goes on in Florida okay, with water companies like the one that you have, you operate under a completely different set of rules than if you were governed by the Public Utilities Commission, okay? They have, and you can call the Public Utilities Commission and they will tell you, if you have a problem with your sewer or your water, whatever you don't like, take it up with your city council. So I'm following through on that, and what I'm saying to you is that, is there enough water? Because I know we're gonna hear the water department say, oh, don't worry about it, we've got 13 well sites over on the west side. Really? Well, they've been out there isolated all by themselves for a long time, but now you're developing all around it. So do you have the easements around those well sites to protect those wells for the benefit of the community? Okay? I don't believe that you could pass muster with the same type of scrutiny that an individual water company, and I've been one of those individual water companies on a very small basis, has to pass. It's the same scrutiny that you have to pass, regardless of what size you are. Okay? I don't think that the Palm Coast Water Company could pass the Public Utilities Commission guidelines and checks. And so what I would like to ask you folks to do is somehow or other find a way to get this to another level, get this to somebody else, an independent third party, okay, for everybody's benefit in this city, and say, okay, we've taken it to the Public Utilities Commission, a completely different authority that doesn't have authority on us, and then ask them, pay them, okay, to scrutinize what we have here, to find out if we do have the proper amount of water for the future, and if we are safeguarding the wells on the west side. That so far, nothing's up. I know everything's planned, but you know, there was a problem with that years ago when the former city manager got banged for $750,000 having to power those well sites years ago. Okay. We paid for it. We brought power out to all those well sites. So I'm asking you to take a harder look, go to a third party that knows this business and knows it really well. Ask the Public Utilities Commission if they could run a check on it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any additional speakers that would like to address this issue at this time, this item at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I'll come back to the dais and City Council for additional discussion.
I would just like to say that my concern actually is for the residents of that area. Very concerned about it, and I have no problem at all with builders and developers in the city of Palm Coast, but I think that we have to be mindful of our residents and our city and what we're doing to their quality of living. So I would just like to ask that some of the needs that they're asking to be met are considered. I think that is very important. I myself come from a big city, and I remember all the high-rises, all the big buildings, and I didn't like them. And that's why I moved here to Florida. I love Palm Coast, and I love everything about Palm Coast and what it represents. And I would like to keep it the beautiful city that it is, and assure the residents that they can be comfortable here and live peacefully. Thank you. And thank you for your comments.
Yeah, I concur. Can you elaborate a little bit? Would it be additional buffers that you think might help ensure the integrity of this area? Just so that, as a council, we can make comments, because I would just like to know your opinion on what do we think would actually help maintain those standards, because I think those are all absolutely valid things. I think the community and ensuring that the integrity of their homes, even outside the bounds of this additional buffer, are maintained. Councilwoman Hyder, I was just curious, what exactly, would you, additional buffers, would that satisfy what you think, or maybe going further to the east, I suppose this would be with the buffers up?
That question is to me?
Yeah, I was just curious if you could elaborate, like what do we think?
Well, I think that they should probably move back the lines of the property and also include the buffers. I just think that the privacy of the residents with high-rise buildings, 4 stories, that's a lot to contend with. It really is. And like I said, no offense at all to the builders and the developers. We need them here, but we also need jobs while we're bringing all of these people here. That's also a concern of mine. So I'm just hoping that the builder and the developer will take this into consideration.
Agreed. And so I suppose my question would be for the applicant and staff. What is the nearest point that one of these adjoining, or I shouldn't say adjoining, but adjacent homes on what would be the south side of Seminole Woods Boulevard over here? I know that with these additional setbacks that we're, and with the existing 80-foot right-of-way, that we're looking close to the 300 feet of football field's length. But if we go further north on here, is that, is there a point where that number does become diminished to where the homes are much closer on this side of Seminole Woods?
So right now, as what the applicant has proposed, there's a 15-foot setback on the residential on the south side of Seminole Woods Boulevard, 80-foot right-of-way, a 40-foot city drainage easement. Then there's a 25-foot landscape buffer G, that's our major landscape buffer along major roads in the city. And then beyond that, they've got a 110-foot setback. So it ends up being a minimum of 245 feet, which, if you watch a football game, and the punt goes in the end zone, the team gets the ball on the 20-yard line. So that 80-yard drive to the end zone would be the distance, very similar to the 245 feet.
Gotcha. Okay. And even as we go further up past the extended boundaries, that remains true? Because there was some concern outside the bounds of this imagery that the proposed setback, like even on the upper right-hand corner of the image here, just a little bit past that number wouldn't be diminished?
Yeah, I'm not following what you're saying.
Just, is there anything further up on this image that's just outside the bounds of this that would be impacted adversely against the 80 yards or the 240 feet, however you wanted to say that?
Councilmember, are you asking, does the line of sight dimension increase as you go northward on the map?
No, it would apply to both MFR2 parcels.
Okay, understood. Sorry about for the roundabout question.
You asked what I wanted to ask, so I'm good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you put that map back up, please? So, the buffer that you see was demonstrative to showing you what would be in the circle area, correct? MFR2 and the yellow up to the school board piece, which is NRC. Our intent is to continue that same boundary to the brown MFR piece to the east of the school board piece. So that 150, 240 something feet that we're talking about will extend along the entire ownership of our property. Yep. That landscape will be buffered, it'll be bermed, and it'll have what we call opacity. So we'll work through those issues. But the two lime green pieces are not our properties. Again, the one in the middle is the school board piece that we're talking to them about, and the triangle is under a different ownership. So as it relates to this application, that buffer applies to all our property along Seminole Woods. Is that clear?
That's a much more concise way of getting to what
Does that answer your question?
It does.
I'm sorry if we weren't clear the first time.
Got it.
Councilwoman, questions?
Thank you. So I don't have any other questions for the applicant or staff. I do have comments to make. I want to point out to my colleagues up here on the dais that here we are again, after annexing property from the county into the city. We are now going to change the PUD, the zoning, the LDC, the MPD, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to add density. We are affecting, those are the faces of the people that our decisions up here affect every single Tuesday. When we come in here and we add, we are going from 416 dwelling units to 850 possibly. And those are the faces right there that these decisions affect. I'm not okay with this. I understand that property owners have rights. I understand that things change. I understand that we're growing as a city, and I am in favor of all of those things. But if we look back at what we have done, we just earlier on our agenda had an annexation of GeoSam, the GeoSam property. And what are we doing? We're proposing increasing density. We already know we're putting the cart before the horse. We know what they want to do. We are earning a reputation in the city of Palm Coast of, if you don't have it in the county, just annex into the city, and the developers will be able to double their density. And you can't blame the developers, that's their job. It is our job to protect quality of life for the citizens of Palm Coast, and we are not doing it. So if we look at the current flume designation, it is designated residential, low-density, rural estate, and conservation. We are changing it now to single-family residential and multifamily. That is, I understand that still with the amount of acreage, because of the amount of conservation, it's only going to be about roughly 2 dwelling units per acre. I get that, I appreciate that. But when we're looking at the concentration of the density, that is a false, I think, that's smoke and mirrors. Because we're talking about a 4-story building that we're putting up against homes. We have a recession coming, we know it, thanks to national policy making, and we are building all these homes. We already have 15,000 that we've approved in the pipeline. Here we go, approving more. We are going to hit a recession, and I do not want to see the city of Palm Coast go through what it went through in 2007. So I am asking my colleagues up here to seriously consider what we continue to do. You know, it's one thing to change what we did in Belterra Estates because that was a little bit smaller. We didn't annex that in. The applicant gave back to the community by donating the dog park and doing things that were going to still benefit our residents. When we look at what we are bound to as far as the considerations pursuant to our code, I want to go through these. So the 5 review criteria from section 2.05.05 of the LDC must not be in conflict with the public interest. I want one of my council members to tell me how doing this is in the interest of our public. Please.
I'll take that up. Let's start. You referred to quality of life. So specifically, how does this plan deteriorate quality of life?
Well, Mayor, if we go through our own staff's presentation, they flat out tell us that it's going to affect our infrastructure. So if we go to page 132.
So is this a question on concurrency? Are you concerned about the water?
That's part of it. And,
Well,
and by the way,
I can confirm that the development order will consider concurrency with one of the best water systems in the state according to the awards that they have won. So what else is affecting the quality of life?
And Mayor, and I agree with that. Yes, we have concurrency requirements, but we're also asking the state for appropriations in the amounts of tens of millions of dollars to help our infrastructure, specifically with provision of water, because we're running out. That's a problem. And if we don't get that money from the state, which we're also asking for money from the state for the mock, because we need to provide for safety and expansion for our mock. We're also asking for money from the state to expand west so that we can add more homes.
My question was the quality of life of the residents that you were pointing to.
Yes, and Mayor, you
Who
actually...
have an issue with multifamily, I understand that. And to address the unemployment, it's my understanding that we have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the state.
Which has just risen. Our unemployment rate has gone up.
Minor, we still have businesses out there begging for people to work, but please help me again with the quality of life specifically. What is deteriorating these residents' quality of life?
Mayor, as we add more and more people, we're adding traffic.
Okay.
We are adding, when you add traffic, when you add people, you're adding, we already know that the sheriff's office is going to need more deputies. There are all kinds of strained resources that will be affected. And yes, there's impact fees, and I understand that too. But my question is, why not just stick with the 416 dwelling units that are allowed on this property now? Why do we have to annex in property and then double the capacity? Why do we have to do that? We don't. We up here can say, no, we want the integrity. The people that have invested in this community, we're pushing them out. We're pushing them out so that we can allow more people who are new and maybe want to live in an apartment that's on the 4th story so that they can come in. That is not okay. I know that the people who have invested in this community should not be pushed out. That does affect their quality of life. It does affect their safety. It does affect the amount of taxes that they're going to pay because we don't have infrastructure right now to maintain all of the people and all the dwelling units that we are approving. So and I want to continue to go through this list
I understand that is your comment, but if you're asking questions, so are you suggesting that the concurrency examinations that we do to ensure that we have the utilities necessary, and schools and fire and police and every other thing on that very long list are not being done properly?
What I'm suggesting is that that is one consideration, and I think that when we're looking at things like that, there are certain regulations by the state. For instance, concurrency. Let's take that. Okay, when we look at the rate of our roads, okay, how our roads are rated. If a road is rated at service level B and it drops to service level D, well, all we have to meet is service level D. So they don't have to do anything. They have to do nothing because we're still above our service level. But it's still affecting the residents. It's still affecting the level of service of the road that they have to travel down. That developer may not have to do anything in that moment,
Right.
but it's still
So you're
negatively
concerned about
affecting-
traffic congestion, understood.
That's
Go
part
on,
of it.
keep going.
That's one part of it, Mayor. And I would appreciate not degrading the argument, because all of our residents feel this way.
I think he's just
It
asking
is-
for clarification.
It is this panel up
Wait,
here.
wait, all right, stop. No. Please. Now, that's a bold statement. All of our residents feel that way.
I
Let's
haven't heard
have
of
your
a sing-
opinion, and you can continue, please.
You're right, Mayor. It is my opinion because I haven't heard a single resident say anything opposite to me. Maybe you all have, I have not. Now, I was fine with annexing this property in. I remember when we annexed it in, because it wasn't that long ago, thinking to myself, I wonder what the ask is going to be on the tail end of this. And here we are. And so my concern is, as we continue to grow our boundary lines, are we going to continue to preserve the integrity of the county, or are we going to continue to add density? Unfortunately, with this board, I find that it's going to be the latter, and it is not in the best interest of our residents. It does impose significant hardship on the city, and it costs our residents more money. And so for that, I understand that we're going through growth. I'm in favor of it. I was in favor of annexing the property in, knowing that we were going to add density, but not doubling what the initial integrity was and what these people invested in when they bought here.
Vice Mayor, comment?
Still absorbing all of this.
Okay.
Please, go on.
No? We'll go another round here.
The comment.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilwoman Pontieri. I don't have all the facts and all of the information that she shared with us, but I do think that it's very important. My main concern is what happens when we stack in another 850 units in this development that's there, because it is going to have a large impact on the residents of that particular area. And that is my concern. The people are my concern.
Councilwoman, with all due respect, may I ask you a
Yes.
question? You are the city council's liaison to the Affordable Housing Committee in Flagler County.
Yes, I am.
So the introduction of multifamily units in this area is probably a discussion that goes on at the Affordable. I haven't heard a report yet, so I assume that's part of the conversation that you have there. So can you comment on that?
I haven't actually heard them commenting on multifamily housing. No, I haven't really heard them discussing that. But even when you build these multifamily housing, with the way that rents are, I would like to know if these are rental units, what are the rents going to be? And are they really affordable?
I'm not sure that's a question that it's appropriate for us to ask. So is your concern that these properties would be at the same market value as the other folks' homes, so they would actually be equal to or increase the valuation of the homes?
Are we talking about rental properties or residential homes?
Either way. You made a comment that you were concerned that the
Again,
rental properties would be at a rate.
My main concern is not about affordable housing in this case. My main concern is about what it's going to do to the existing residents that are living there, and they've had this quality of life, and now all of a sudden, they're going to have these four-story multifamily units there. It's going to have a big impact, and that's my main concern.
Okay, and again, just to refresh my memory, the line of sight distance between the residence folks and these buildings is how far?
It was 245 feet.
So the better part of the length of a football field? Okay.
80 yards.
All right. Vice Mayor, have you had enough time to digest?
This is the first read, right? The first reading on this? So if we approve this today, it still has to come back for a second reading. I'm not sure, but I'm curious, is there anything that the applicant can do to address some of these concerns between now and then?
So, Vice Mayor, here's my problem, and I'm not trying to be argumentative.
Sure.
I'm not clear on what the specific request or changes. In other words, I've heard some rather philosophical and quite frankly some uncomfortable conversation here, and I'm not clear on what's being asked for. So is it, for example,
I can help
if
you,
the
Mayor.
buffer-
It's
hold on,
to
I'm not
keep the
finished yet.
416 units that they bought the property knowing
I didn't
existed.
hear the resident say that. Is it, the request I'm asking is, does it mean if the buffer were 10 feet higher, does that change the formula so that you can't see the other properties?
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
don't-
I'm
that's what
trying to help you
encouraged
with, I don't know what the specific request is. If
No,
you
we
would
are-
like to ask the developer to come back and reconsider some of the questions that were raised, some of the comments were
I think
made.
the buffer
I need to
is-
know what those are specifically. And I think
mean,
the developer
the height
would.
of the buffer,
Yeah.
you know, at that distance, will it pretty much block everything? I don't know. And maybe perhaps we need to get those answers before we proceed. Or we do it between the first and the second read.
Which is possible. Do you want to, go ahead.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I have to go back to, I haven't heard a single person up here tell me how this is in the interest of our public. How is doubling the amount of residential units in the interest of our public? I would like to know the answer to that question, because that is one of the criteria that we are supposed to talk about. We've heard staff's opinion. I want to know the opinion of my colleagues.
Well, I mean, it's a simple answer. We are experiencing growth. Now, we have to master plan growth as best we can, but there's no denying growth. I mean, there's no way to stop that. So I think
15,000 units we've just approved already this year aren't enough?
are you putting a limit on growth?
Well, I'm not, but I
Okay.
haven't seen that demand, first of all. But I'm
Well,
asking specifically in this case.
Let's stop there. What do you mean you have not seen that? First, let me ask you a question. Do you know what the median house price, single-family home, in the city of Palm Coast is?
No,
I will tell you what it is.
I would assume it's high.
It's approaching $400,000, which means one thing, that there's not enough inventory of dwelling units in the city of Palm Coast to accommodate the demand.
So
That's
let's
just a
double
plain
what's
fact.
approved and tank everybody's property values.
No, I didn't say everybody's. We're looking at each development one by one, but there's no denying growth. I mean, it does come with the hardships of congestion and traffic. There's no question about it. But I don't see any of us standing out on the corner telling people they can't come to Palm Coast any longer. It doesn't work that way here. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, and, you know, I get asked a lot about growth, as I'm sure we all do. And, you know, this is America. This is what we do. We grow. We build. We make jobs. You know, every building, every development we do creates jobs, creates income for our city. Whether the folks working on those projects or not even live here, they certainly spend money here on gasoline, on food products, so on and so forth. You know, I recently went home to where I grew up. Hadn't been back there in like maybe 25 years or more. Didn't recognize a lot of things because things change. So I understand that we're going to grow, and that's just part of you know, being a healthy city in a sense. We're not going to remain stagnant. So I understand that part of it. I also understand that our residents, you know, sometimes have complaints and stuff. I'd like to see us work things out with residents, you know, with the developers and their attorneys, sitting down with the residents and coming up with some sort of compromises that may help. But we are going to grow. And, you know, I often tell people, they ask me about growth, and I tell them there's a place that I know of where you can move to, it will never grow. All right, it's called Brigadoon. You can wake up one day every 100 years and sing a song with Gene Kelly.
Vice Mayor.
And I'm serious about this because it is, as you said, it's a difficult discussion we're having up here. And I want Councilwoman Pontieri to know I respect very much what she is saying, but I think we're tasked with coming up with dealing with this, and I'd like to see us.
So in the spirit of your thoughts, both of your thoughts, let me, does the developer want to make a comment?
Yes, Jeff Douglas. I live in Town Center in multifamily housing. I just need to clear the air of some false messaging that's out there. We're not doubling the size of the project. It was originally approved for 416 units. I think we gave 200 acres to environmental that were uplands and could have been built on. Originally, that was in 2005, so this project has been on the paper since 2005, long before many of the houses were built. To address the water situation, there's one person in the room that's responsible for most of the water that's brought into this city, and I represent those groups, and we actually gave the well sites, gave as in gave deed. We didn't charge money, we gave them along the corridor it's near here. We've given them out west, so it's not a zero-sum game. To address the multifamily issue, we don't know what we're gonna build there yet. I thought we did. I feel like I just walked into something that's utterly unfair because we've given 150 feet. We've gone to hysteria and false messaging and fear tactic. That's kind of sad to, to people that have done everything we can to address this. We're going to, the 150 feet goes all the way up. It's not just 150 feet, it's 150 foot setback from the drainage easement. So you have the road, the drainage easement, and the houses are set right on the road, setback on the sidewalk setback. So, we're pushing them further back. And I think you just got to look to how we've done everything. Look at Grand Lanes, the entrance of everything. The project corridor is going to be gorgeous. The stuff to the north of the entrance is all going to be stormwater ponds. There will not be a building there. Vote against it. I challenge you to vote against it because now you're going to have houses backed up to it. So that's the alternative. And, shame on the family, shame on the working family, shame on the working person that's getting here. We have zero vacancy in the apartment community, zero. It's 2,000 a unit. I pay it. It's actually 2,100 a unit. I don't know what we're going to do in this community. I don't know what we're going to build there as far as multifamily. It's a placeholder. It might be townhomes. It might be this. It might be that. You see how we do it. We'll probably slide the initial building back, even though it's 150 feet. It's really a football field. We'll probably slide that building back even further. So I just don't know. But to lead the city down or residents or people down a false narrative and fear, it's not the place for it. We gave the water's there. To bring up certain subjects, talk to us first.
Okay.
Mayor, I
Thank
want to
you.
respond to this.
Thank you.
These comments are directed largely at me. And Mr. Douglas, you and I have met before, and I respect what you've done for our community. I know that you have given back, and I know that you have given resources. And I understand that conservation has been set aside in this project. But to say that this project has been on the books for 850 units is false. It hasn't been.
May I address that?
Please.
See, it is false. You're like the prosecutor that goes out and charges some kid with no money. It was 415 units. It didn't include the hook piece. It was never part of it. That could have been another 200 units. So there's
What is
615
the hook
units there.
piece?
It's a maximum. You charge it, you drive it all the way to the end. And it shouldn't be played out like this, but, you just ran over. It's needless that we have this conversation. And it's dragging families into it. It's dragging all the efforts that everybody's trying to do. That's what I'm saying. No, it's not. So you can't go there. Please stop saying that we doubled the size of it.
What was
It's
the
simply
hook-
factually not true.
What was the
Not
hook
true.
piece previously approved for?
Cascades itself was approved for 416 units.
Okay. What was the hook piece approved for?
The hook piece was, it was a MPD, it was MPD, right?
No, it was new rural communities.
Yeah,
Right.
It was an MPD, it's basically unzoned, so it can be anything it wants.
Right, but that requires approval. And I understand you all have rights as a property owner, and I appreciate the fact that this isn't going to max units per acre, which is what I said. My issue is not with you or your company or what you all are doing. My issue is the fact that we have 14,000 dwelling units in the pipeline right now just this year that we've approved, and this is adding to it. I'm looking at this robustly from everything that we have done. I'm not picking on you all. I appreciate what you've done for the community. It wouldn't matter if it were you or another developer. It matters, though, how quickly we are adding units to this community, and that's it.
So let me I have to correct the record here, presiding over this meeting, as I do. Throwing out 14,000 units without defining a timeline is irresponsible. Those 14,000 units are over what period of time? How many years are they coming online? That's just not fair.
Mayor, I will get the exact numbers, and I will present them during the next meeting.
Very good, thank you. All right, last round of discussion before I call the vote. Vice Mayor.
I have no other comments at this time. I know this is just the first read. This will come back to us a second time. Would like to see what happens in between. We're not making a final decision today. And I'd like to see those numbers on the 14,000 units because I think you're correct that there's a timeline there, and it's not all going to pop up tomorrow or the next day. It will take time. We are growing, and people want to move here, and I don't know if we're going to hit a recession or depression or what. There's a lot of politics between now and November of next year, and a lot of ways our economy can go. But right now, people are moving here, and they're filling up, and I don't blame them. So that's all I have at the moment.
Councilwoman Pontieri?
Nothing further.
Okay.
No further comments.
No, and Councilman Clufus.
I would just like to highlight the back and forth discord that we've had, not only with the community, but the developer and the concessions that have been made to make these setbacks as big as they are. And I can draw one parallel driving down Colbert. You can see the huge boat storage facilities, and I know that those are over 6 stories tall, and that was part of the inclination of the community at that point. But now that you can actually have a perspective of what a 6-story building looks like comparatively from driving Roberts Road, which is close to a football field away from that facility, it's just the perspective of the viewing angle that occurs when you're a football field away from something. I think that's something we might need to all get on the same page as far as what that actually looks like. Number 2, I would just like to kind of hold back all the fear mongering that has been going back here. There's a lot of talk about what could potentially happen in the future, and column A impacting column B, but I think it's important that we stick to the facts and actual content of the way that this is going to impact the community, but also historically what has gone into these type of agreements with the give and take and the infrastructure that has been laid down by the individuals who, fortunately or unfortunately, had to install all this infrastructure back prior to 2006 when we weren't sure what was going to happen, and unfortunately, the housing recession occurred, and all of those commitments seem to have kind of, been forgotten, alas, because they're almost now approaching 20 years old. So I just think it's important that we keep the entire perspective of the development, not only for this project, but also other projects in our clear forefront of our minds.
Thank you, Councilman. City Manager, I would ask that you direct your staff to, regardless of how this votes, get together with the residents group and the developer to address their concerns as specifically as possible so that this concept of collaborating with the community is continued. So with that, yes.
So we have to do this in 2 votes.
Oh, correct. So do you need to read the first one in again?
The first one, I don't have to read the full
Right.
titles, but I can read just the excerpt.
Go ahead. So this would be one of 2 votes, both on
Right.
the same
The first
subject.
vote is going to be on the ordinance concerning the future land use map amendment for 375 acres from the county designation of residential, low-density, rural estate and conservation to the city's designation of residential and conservation, with a site-specific policy to limit development to a maximum of 850 units.
And we've had public comment on this one?
Yes, we've had public comment.
So I'm going to ask for a motion.
Well, I just have a question first. I just want to clarify a couple things. On both of these are the first read, correct? These both will come back. And when you say a maximum of 850, that doesn't mean 850.
It means a maximum.
It means the
And this is
maximum.
set in the comp plan. So the comp plan's the overarching, the higher level look. The site-specific, how many units there ultimately ends up being will depend on many things, the
Anything.
application.
And
of
the
our
applicant hasn't presented anything to us on what they're actually going to end up putting.
No, this is, the rezoning is to a standard zoning designation, so it's whatever the code outlines for that zoning designation, and then they have to come back with a
Have to
site
come back
plan.
again, so it's just the first time around, and then that allows us to proceed. We can stop it the second time around if we're not happy, and hopefully the developer, I like the concept of the developer getting together with the residents and working things out like neighbors. I think that's a good approach for the future here. So I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Vice Mayor's made a motion, and may I have a second?
I would second that motion.
Councilman Clufus has seconded the motion. Is there any additional discussion? I need a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Danko,
Yes.
Councilmember Hyder,
Yes.
Councilmember Clufus.
Aye.
Councilmember Pontieri,
No.
Mayor Alpin.
Yes.
The motion passes 4-1.
Now we move on to the second item.
Yes, the second item is the rezoning of application number 5107, and this is from the county designation of planned unit development and new rural communities to the city of Palm Coast designation of single-family residential, multifamily residential 2, and preservation. City council members, this is a quasi-judicial matter, so if you've had any ex parte communications on the matter, please disclose them for the record now.
Council members?
None.
I want to be clear because I did mention that I have met with Mr. Douglas before. It was not specifically about this development, so there has been none.
Okay, thank you.
Any ex parte communication? No. And nor have I.
Okay.
Does that satisfy? Good.
Yes, it does. The motion can be accepted. now for
Is
the
our city council members clear on this second ordinance? Do you need a further explanation?
So I just want the clarification that we are voting on the zoning districts of single-family residential 1, multifamily residential 2, and preservation zoning, correct?
That is correct, as they're outlined in the code.
Okay.
May I have a motion, please? I'm sorry, no. This needs to go out, right?
No, we had public comment.
We did, okay. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilman Clufus. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Vice Mayor Danko. Is there any additional further discussion at this time? Hearing none, I'll go with a roll call vote again, please.
Vice Mayor Danko,
Yes.
Councilmember Hyder,
Yes.
Councilmember Clufus.
Aye.
Councilmember Pontieri,
No.
Mayor Alpin.
Yes.
The motion passes 4-1.
We now move to item number I-10, which is an ordinance regarding special events.
Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, amending the City of Palm Coast Code of Ordinances, Chapter 28, Article 2, Special Events, providing city manager authorization to implement, providing for codification, severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Brittany McDermott, Deputy Director of Parks and Recreation, coming to you today as a Special Event Review Team, or CERT representative, to follow up on our special event ordinance. You may recall I was here last week. We had some good discussion. Before I get into some of the changes made from last week, just a quick reminder that we are referring to Ordinance 2010-01, which was adopted in 2010. This ordinance supports events, both internal and external, to protect and promote the health, welfare, and safety of the citizens of and visitors to the City of Palm Coast. CERT that I just mentioned is comprised of representatives from city departments such as Parks and Rec, Public Works, Fire, Community Development, and representatives such as the Flagler County Sheriff's Office. This was one of the items that we needed to follow up on from last week, Section 2834, Special Event Permit Review. There was discussion that the site plan verbiage was not specific enough, so this highlighted area was added to say including but not limited to event layout, traffic flow, and parking. Councilmember Pontieri, I believe this was to your point, so we did go ahead and expand on that item. Is there any further discussion that's needed on this section?
No.
Okay.
And thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Moving forward, this was Section 2833 for the event disclosure. Mayor, you asked us to follow up on the time frame that we were requesting, which was 180 days in advance. We did look at some of the facilities you asked us to look at, which was Channelside, Hammock Beach Resort, those facilities, and we found that most of them allowed up to a year in advance, all the way up to 14 days, depending on staff and resources, if there was catering requirements such as that. I do want to point out those venues are probably more similar to our community center, and we're very much in line with that. We also allow 1 year out up to 14 days. And with those venues, they're more geared towards private events, you know, birthday parties, retirement parties, things like that. So speaking to the special event ordinance, we really look for those larger community events, such as the ones that are held out here in Central Park. So we did look to some of our comparable municipalities to look at their timeframes. We did find that we were completely in line with Flagler Beach. They also require 6 months in advance for larger scale events. But as we dived into the ordinance more, we did find that we needed to add an exemption. We didn't include that if they don't meet the definition of the event in the ordinance, that they could be exempt from that time frame. So we added that yellow highlighted area in the beginning there. We also added, because we saw that Flagler Beach had this as well, if there's a recurring event that already has an approved site plan on file, they come back every year, it's pretty much the same show every year, that they could also be exempt from that time frame as well. And there were some other exemptions included in the ordinance already, but we did add those two to that section as well. So hopefully that satisfies the concern with the 6 months in advance.
So I appreciate the flexibility so that we don't leave anybody behind. Is everybody comfortable with that? That probably gives them enough to make sure that we're not, pushing somebody out of the way. Okay.
Okay, and that concludes my presentation. Those were the only 2 updates made from the ordinance last week. If there are any further questions, I'm available at this time.
Any comments on special events here? We're getting ready to vote on it. No?
I have
Okay.
none.
No, I just commend you guys for looking ahead and legislatively engaging in this process to make the event process better for us as we grow, so thank you for that.
Councilwoman? No questions. I will second that. I appreciate your taking a deeper look at that, and I can't imagine that we would not be accommodating almost anybody that would want to, take advantage of the wonderful facilities that we have. So just hold on for 1 second. Let me make sure that Councilman Clufus doesn't have a question.
And absolutely, we would agree. We want to work with as many groups as we can.
We have to go out to public comment too on this.
So why don't we
you
do
can't
that? So, okay, because I'll ask him again. So I will open public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this item on the agenda at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I'll stretch this out just a little bit longer, and I really don't have any additional questions.
Well, while we have Brittany here,
Yes, go ahead.
can we maybe, because I was going to ask this during council comment at the end, can you expound on Food Truck Tuesday tonight and when the
Good idea.
fire truck pool,
Excellent.
what time
Well
the fire
done.
truck pool will be and all of that?
Yes, so definitely encourage you to come out to Food Truck Tuesday tonight. The event is from 5 to 8, and then the entertainment will be the fire truck pool where we have our sheriff's office and the fire department heading off. I believe that starts at 6 p.m. Don't quote me on that. I wish Jared were here to answer that question, but he's the one running the event, so he's very busy today between that and senior games. But the whole Food Truck Tuesday event does run from 5 to 8, and again, that beneficiary is the Advent Health Foundation in support of breast cancer research and testing right here in Flagler County. Definitely encourage everybody to come out tonight. It's going to be an awesome event.
Awesome, thank you.
And I'll hold just for another moment because we are going to vote on this. Councilman Clufus, just in time. I'm just holding to ask if you have any questions regarding the
Special events.
special event ordinance. I think you did hear they added some flexibility to all of that. Any questions?
No questions.
Very good, then I'll ask for a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Pontieri to approve.
Second it.
And a second by Vice Mayor Danko. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Does the clerk have the count?
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda we've already covered, so we move to Section K, resolutions, and number 12, Counselor, if you would,
We've covered 12-2.
12-2, yep, you're right.
Yep, so we're
Okay.
on item number 13.
Good.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, approving application number 5304, the Legacy at Palm Coast, a technical plan, Tier 3, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for implementing actions, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. Fang Wing for Community Development Department. This is a proposed development within the town center. It is track 18A, and as depicted here in a distant area, it is a site that has approximately 27 acres to propose a community of 300 apartment units. And the units will be provided in 1, 2, or 3 bedrooms in either 3 or 4-story buildings. As you can see, the applicant has applied for a technical site plan. It is a tier 3 since it has over 100 units. The future land use map designation within town centers are pretty much designated DRI urban core or conservation. Similarly, for zoning map, it is designated as town center master plan development. As you can see here, the depiction of the location of the proposed legacy at Palm Coast and the proximity to City Hall. And part of this plan is slated for multifamily, which what the proposed development is going to be proposing to develop. Here is a site plan, overall site plan. It is bordered to the north and most of the west with wetland, and to the south with the Lake Avenue and town center. South of the legacy is the Imagine School. And then across the east of the site is also proposed to be developed as multifamily as well. As you can see here, there are proposed 8 buildings, and the amenity center is centrally located with a swimming pool. And directly west of that, you can see that that is another amenity center providing kayak launch and gazebo. And here's a close-up of the entrance into the legacy off of Town Center Boulevard. As you can see here, has a 4-lane entrance into the site, but it will be gated once it's enter into the residential community. So you can have public access can go directly into the amenity center, but not into the residential area. And you can also see on the northeast, which is basically on the right side of the map here, there's going to be a dog park as well. And here's another look at the entrance off of Lake Avenue, and that's going to be residential connection only, and it will be gated. Here's some architectural elevation. As you can see, there are 4 types. This is type 1. As you can see, the architectural features contrasted by the tower, and which are basically stairways in order to get to the upper levels. And here's a type 2, which is bigger than type 1. And here's another look at type 3 that has 3 stories. And type 4, which is probably the largest building, it has 4 stories. Here's the site development requirements that you can see. Minimum development site area is 2,500 square feet. They are providing 27 acres. And the maximum impervious surface ratio is 0.85. They are up to 0.2, which is a lot lower than the maximum. The maximum building height is allowed at 80 feet, and they are providing just over 55 feet for the 4-story building. So all the minimum building setbacks are met, and then they are providing the parking lot requirement as required in the criteria per the town center PUD, that the minimum parking is 1.5 spaces per one bedroom, 1.75 spaces for two bedroom, and 2 spaces for 3-bedroom units. And including that, also a 1 space per 250 square feet for the clubhouse. So what they are providing, the total requirement is 527 spaces. What they are providing is 520 spaces, and they have provided parking flexibility to request for a 7 spaces reduction. So basically, the requirement is a ratio of 1.76. They are providing 1.73, and staff is supporting that. In addition to that, they are also required to provide a northbound left turn lane on Town Center at Lake Avenue. So here's the depiction of the plan set that they are going to construct the northbound left turn lanes. So there are 5 review criteria, as you have seen the other agenda item pertaining to Land Development Regulations, Section 2.0505. So the first requirement is that must not be in conflict with public interest. The findings that the legacy is within an area designated town residential on the town center PUD and will be compatible with other uses allowed on neighboring lands, such as I had provided. Number 2, must be consistent with the LDC and the comprehensive plan. The finding is that the project meets 5 goals, policies, and objectives of the comprehensive plan and meets all standards of the LDC. Number 3, must not impose a significant liability or hardship on city. The findings that public facilities such as water and sewer are available to serve the site, and area roadways within the project's traffic included at build-out will continue to operate at an acceptable level of service. They did provide to us also a traffic impact analysis. Number 4, must not create an unreasonable hazard or nuisance. The finding is that the residential community will be compatible with the overall neighborhood, as it is located within a mixed-use area of retail and residential uses and preserved lands. The project's residential uses will provide demand for existing and future nearby commercial uses, primarily along the area in the core. And lastly, must comply with all applicable government standards. So the findings that the project will need to meet all applicable local, state, and federal development requirements. We presented this presentation at Planning Board, and the Planning Board at a meeting on August 16 recommended approval to City Council with a vote of 5-0. The next steps for this project, if Council approves this resolution for the legacy, then the applicant applies for a site development permit to allow construction, and the applicant provides for building permits thereafter. The recommendation is that Planning and Land Development Regulation Board recommends that City Council find the project in compliance with the comprehensive plan and approve the legacy of technical site plan Tier 3, application number 5304. The applicant was here, but I'm not sure if he has returned. Yes, the applicant is here, and he has also a presentation for you.
He has returned. Kurt Wempe, 10475 Fortune Parkway, Jacksonville, Florida. I'm here representing Landmark Communities, and I've got a PowerPoint that I think Fong's going to pull up for me.
Yes. Just let me know and then I'll.
Okay, here we go. Landmark Companies have been around quite a while. They have over 7,000 units in development and have built almost 7,000 in construction. I'm just going to kind of go through a little bit of their history. Since inception, their portfolio consists of over 7,000 that was just discussed, valued over $700 million. And we're going to look at some of their projects so you can get a feel for what type of work they do. This one's in Kissimmee, Muse, and Dulce Living in Rosenberg, Texas. Landmark in Kissimmee. Regalia in Mansfield, Texas. Interiors, high-end interiors throughout all their projects and their amenity areas. And here's our site plan. This is the final step of our process. We're at the very end here. We worked with staff extensively to make sure this is a quality project for Town Center. Town Center is obviously one of the premier areas here in Palm Coast, and we think this fits the area well. And I'll entertain any questions you may have.
I have none.
Looks like a quality project. I mean, it looks great, so I'm looking forward to seeing it in Town Center.
Councilwoman?
Looks great historically. It looks like you created a great project, so I'm looking forward to another one here in Palm Coast.
I have a question of curiosity. Normally, you would see the amenity center or the pool near the entrance and exit because it's a good marketing technique. It's not a qualifier. I'm just curious as to why you chose to place it in the center of the development.
I think they wanted that to be more of a focal point inside the community and have more people be able to see that. Okay. So I think that was the reason.
So they're assuming they have great confidence in their occupancy. Thank you.
That's correct. And they actually have other amenities around that area, so it's kind of a full community.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'm
Comments?
sorry, I had a question for
Well,
staff.
yeah.
I didn't want to keep the applicant up here while I had a
go ahead.
question for staff, but thank you, I appreciate it. Mr. Fong, so you all said you did a flexibility study and we're okay with the reduction in the 7 parking spots. What is taken into consideration, just for my own edification, when you all make that determination?
Yes, several years ago, we also had a parking flexibility for the White View multifamily along Pine Lakes and White Mill. And the ratio there was that we approved back then was 1.72. And this one is basically right at the same level, which is a little bit more accommodation, is 1.73. Based on national standards, the average of multifamily in terms of accommodation is anywhere in a ratio between 1.36 to 1.6. So the requirements that is providing is over that average, national average. Yeah.
So you all consider a reduction in 7 to be nominal and won't affect essentially the quality of the project?
Yes, it is basically they providing 520 versus the required 527. So it's minimal reduction in staff's view.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So if there are no other questions of staff or the applicant right now, then I will open up the item for public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this agenda item at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment. Any additional discussion?
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilwoman Pontieri. Any further discussion? Let's do a roll call.
Vice Mayor Danko?
Yes.
Councilmember Hyder?
Yes.
Councilmember Clufus?
Aye.
Councilmember Pontieri?
Yes.
Mayor Alford?
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
We now move down to item number 14.
That's correct.
If you would go ahead and read that in for us.
Sure. This is a resolution regarding the retreat at Town Center Phase 1 final plat. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, approving application number 5301 for the final plat of a parcel of land lying in Section 6, Township 12 South, Range 31 East, City of Palm Coast, Flagler County, Florida, and also being a portion of Tract 21B, said lands described and recorded in Official Records Book 2508, page 878, and Tract 21A, said lands described and recorded in Official Records Book 2508, page 897.
Mr.
All
Tyner?
in the official public records of said Flagler County, Florida, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for implementing actions, and providing for an effective date. City council members, this is a final plat item, so it's a ministerial review, meaning that you can merely review this item as it pertains to the specific requirements of the city's code and the Florida statutes as it pertains to plats.
Thank you, City Council. Yeah, this is a final step in our process, of our subdivision process. You know, the rezoning's in place, the DRI's in place. We have a three-tiered step on the subdivision process. Our first step is what we call a subdivision master plan. That's the first step in this process. That goes to planning board for the recommendation and approval, and then the preliminary plat is the second step, and that's when all the engineering and construction plans are completed. Once that improved, the development can start construction, and they have started construction. Most of the infrastructure is in place. Then the final step here today is the final plat. And our site development manager, Mr. Leap, is here with our planner, Estelle Lenz, for the presentation.
Please proceed.
Hi, good afternoon, Mayor, Council members. Estelle with the Planning Division. Excuse me. This is the final plat, as Mr. Tyner mentioned, for the Retreat at Town Center Phase 1. The project is a 39.74 acre project. It is located north of the terminus of Market Avenue in Town Center. The zoning designation of the property is Master Plan Development. It's MPD. It's a Town Center MPD. And the future land use map designation of the property is Development of Regional Impact, DRI Mixed Use. There's a little bit of conservation, and that's the light green. The previous approvals for the Town Center, the Development of Regional Impact, the DRI was originally approved in 2003. It was amended in 2018 and 2022. The Town Center Master Plan Development, the MPD, was first approved in 2003. It was subsequently amended in 2006 and 2018, and it was amended and restated in July of 2022. The subject development, the Retreat at Town Center, received the subdivision master plan approval from the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board in April of 2021, and the preliminary plat and construction plans were approved in December of 2021. And as Mr. Tyner mentioned, construction has begun on the infrastructure. This slide shows some of the improvements that have been done approximately a month or so ago to date. The upper left shows the entrance road. The lower left shows an intersection. The upper right shows the construction of the lift station, and the lower right shows one of the DRI ponds. The Phase 1 is outlined in red. It consists of 66 single-family residential lots on 13 tracts. The total retreat, the 3 phases, will consist of 161 lots on 15 tracts. And as Mr. Tyner mentioned, most of the infrastructure has been completed. The infrastructure which has not been completed, a performance bond has been provided in the estimate of that in the amount of $252,591.79. It's been received and found to be acceptable. And staff recommends that council adopt the resolution approving the final plat for the Retreat at Town Center Phase 1 and authorize the mayor to execute the plat and staff to issue a final plat development order for application number 5301. Questions?
I have none.
No questions.
Questions?
No, we have no questions. Now, when you mention this is ministerial, can you?
It still goes out for public comment.
Okay. So are there any members of the public that would like to address this item at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment, come back to the dais, and we're voting? Then I would ask for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a motion?
Yes.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Danko. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Councilwoman Pontieri. Any additional discussion? So let's roll call.
Vice Mayor Danko?
Yes.
Councilmember Hyder?
Yes.
Councilmember Clufus?
Aye.
Councilmember Ponteri?
Yes.
Mayor Alvin?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Now we move to item number 15.
This is a resolution concerning the Willow Woods A1A water main extension, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, approving a contract with Hazen Construction and a project contingency for the Willow Woods A1A water main extension providing authorization to execute, providing for future amendments, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for implementing actions, and providing for an effective date.
Good morning, council.
Morning. I'll get up.
I don't believe there's actually a presentation on this, is that correct? It's just the contract?
So do you want to give us a quick thumbnail or a brief description, just to get us up to
Yeah,
speed again?
Well, sure. So this project involves a water main installation for an existing community on the North Peninsula on A1A. It's not within the city, but it's within the city's utility service territory. Currently, there's approximately 20 homes in that area. They are trying to build some more homes in there, and they have wells. And the kind of the history of this was that they were originally going to go build this as an HOA or form an HOA and construct this, but they didn't like the cost so much. The county was able to acquire ARPA funding in order to construct this. So we proceeded to be the bearers of the design responsibility and also the construction. So we've completed the design, obviously, received bids, and now we have a bid in on it. So that's essentially what it is, about a $980,000 construction contract plus contingency. And you know, we just expect to get that project going as soon as possible.
Good.
That's essentially the.
Okay.
And I can add, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mayor.
I was just, oh, go ahead. Just put that, go ahead.
I can add in some additional information here. The city entered into an agreement, an ILA with the county regarding these grant funds for this particular extension. Basically, the city's obligation under the agreement with the county was to design and build the project. So this is all being funded with grant funds and under an existing agreement that the city has with the county.
Okay, and my question really for Mr. Flanagan, you don't have to come up. A nod or a hand raise will do. I just want to make sure that as we are building and improving our infrastructure, that this is not delaying any other infrastructure concurrency projects that we currently have in the city of Palm Coast. Is that correct? I have a hand and a nod. Okay.
The field goal's good.
Very good.
For that.
All of that.
And
Thank
no,
you.
it will not
Very
interfere
good.
with that.
Any questions from City Council? Okay, then I will open this item up to the public. If there are any comments from the public, please come to the podium at this time. Seeing no one approach the podium, I'll close public comment and I will ask for a motion.
I'll make the
I have a motion, almost a motion from Vice Mayor Danko. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Second from Councilman Clufus. I think with this all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed?
The motion passes unanimously.
Very good. We now move to our consent agenda, so I guess I will start by asking, are there any items within the consent agenda that you would like to discuss separately?
I have none.
I just want, sorry.
Good.
Just item number 17. This was the aquatic management weed control presentation. Not that I want to pull it from the consent agenda, but I did get a follow-up from staff regarding the reasoning for the price increases on the contract. That was satisfactory to me. And the only thing that I am waiting on is the success rate of the use of carp. So staff has indicated to me that they'll keep me updated on that.
Good.
So thank you to the city manager for that. Other than that, I don't have any other comment on any item.
Nope, nothing pulled.
All right, then I would open up the consent agenda for public comment. Are there any items on the consent agenda that anyone from the public would like to bring forward to City Council? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment, come back to the dais. I don't think there's any
I'll go
additional
ahead and make the
discussion. I
motion.
have a motion from Vice Mayor Danko to approve. Is there a second?
A Second it.
I have a second from Councilwoman Pontieri. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed?
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We now move to item public participation. Are there any members of the public that would like to address City Council at this time? Please come forward. Yes, sir.
Dennis McDonald. Mayor, you made a comment that I wanted to stay behind and just give you some pushback on it. You said that our water company has all kinds of awards, and I agree with you. They do a great job. Okay, Mr. Flanagan does. His predecessor was phenomenal. Okay, good people. That's not my concern. My concern is, can you pass muster with somebody else that's totally independent and operates out of the normal orbit, the Public Utilities Commission? That's number one. The other thing I wanted to comment on is the fact is that I see that there's a lot of times in the past meetings, you've had discussions about electric cars. Now, being a car guy, I find that pretty funny, okay, the whole subject in itself. But I just would like to make you aware of something, okay? Go out and try and trade in an electric car at any dealership, okay? Talk to car wholesalers. Talk to dealers, okay? They don't want them. There's a reason for that. I don't know what it is, okay? I'm not here to tell you what it is. All I'm here to tell you is there's an enormous pushback on that, okay? If you go to Jacksonville, and if you go out to Atlantic, out on the east side, where all the car dealers are, all of a sudden in 5 months, a piece of dirt has gone to a giant Tesla dealer completely loaded full of cars. You couldn't buy a Tesla a year ago. You had to get in line to buy one, okay? Now they're all over a lot. My last comment is essentially this, is that I heard what the city attorney said about the Sunshine Law, okay, and what went on. I don't agree, and I had my wife give me a call, and she happened to be watching this, and having been a school board member, she's taken the training 8 times or something like that, some crazy amount of time, okay? And guess who she took some of those trainings from? She actually found those to be the most productive. Bill Reishman. There's a name you all remember. So here's what I'm suggesting, okay? Seeing as how you have access to Mr. Reishman, okay? I'm suggesting that maybe you go to Bill Reishman and you ask him whether or not, give him all the facts of what transpired and find out if there was any violation of the Sunshine Law and if this type of discussion should be going on. Because I don't believe that this type of ex parte discussion should be going on because this would mean that in the future, from what she said, or your attorney said, affordable housing is never going to come before this commission or this council, okay? So that, I mean, that's what you're saying.
That's not what I said.
In my mind, okay? So all I'm saying is that that's just my opinion, okay? And there's a lot of people watching this that don't agree. So have Mr. Reishman sign it.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Counselor, would you like to comment?
Mayor, and you can back me up on this, my advice when you asked me the question of should you be discussing this, I said no. Yes. So I don't know where this is coming from, but that was not my advice.
And as we all are trained and as we are all required to take training, that was the protocol that we have been taught and we followed it to the letter. So I'm very satisfied and the record will indicate that. Yes, sir.
For our counselor. Because I wasn't quite sure what you said earlier. Was that email a violation of Sunshine or not?
The question that came to me was, can we discuss, and I have the email right here. The question that came with me is, can we discuss these affordable housing supply chain matters that come in as far as supply and demand, and how to address supply and demand? And I said, it's a very slippery slope.
Okay.
You cannot discuss things that may conceivably come before the city council. So if the supply chain issue results in something coming up before the city council where the city's working towards supplying more affordable housing, that would be a violation.
Was that email a violation in your opinion?
My email responding
No,
to the mayor?
the original email. Was that a
The
violation?
original email came from the mayor to me.
I thought it came from
asking
the
me
mayor
if
to
It would be a
Councilwoman Hyder.
violation. The email that the mayor sent to me was asking me if it would be a violation if two council members discussed supply issues with
But no, I'm
affordable
going back in
housing.
time. Was the email sent to Councilwoman Hyder a sunshine violation or not? in your opinion?
Asking Councilmember Hyder if Councilmember Hyder and the mayor could discuss it, and Councilmember Hyder wrote back and said, I need to know first before I discuss it as to whether or not it'd be a violation of
But
the
the
sunshine.
original email was or was not a violation?
The original email was a question, can we discuss this? I don't think I mean, if it were to be discussed, yes, that would have been a violation depending on what was discussed.
But asking if it would be discussed,
I don't know what they were planning on discussing.
do we have the original email?
Sure.
Can you read it? I mean, I want to make sure that we don't cross any lines here in the future, so.
But without like bilateral communication back and forth, I don't think it would represent a sunshine violation, because to actually violate, you would need to communicate back and forth. It can't just be one person, sending an email and then.
Right, it can't be a one-way street, that's correct.
So that email you sent me promising me a new Tesla for my birthday this month,
I
that's not a
would, it would
violation?
be there, but they're so backed up right now. It just takes a little while to get to you.
Okay, the original email from the mayor to Councilmember Hyder, do you have some time to discuss some ideas regarding attainable housing initiatives promoted by Florida realtors and others? Let me check my schedule and I will get back to you from Councilmember Hyder. Then Councilmember Hyder says, Mayor, is this a topic we should be discussing outside of council since it has become a council discussion? I am not comfortable with this, I will get back to you. And then the question came to me as far as I'll check. There was the conversation is philosophical and not actionable. We can also get the blessing of the attorney in the future, so we can also get the blessing of attorney to ensure we do not violate the sunshine. And so then and then Councilmember Hyder responds back, if the attorney and her input, and I'm paraphrasing, if the attorney and her input on how the meeting should, if it's consistent, and the information and limitations, and we are allowed to discuss, I'll give it my consideration. That was from Councilmember Hyder, and then she corrected it because there were some typos. The attorney puts it in writing that we are within our rights regarding the sunshine laws on a particular topic. I will give it my consideration. And then Mayor Alphen said, I'll send to NASA for review. And then it came to me. I am trying to schedule a summary discussion regarding my research and experience in attainable housing conversation, including discussion on supply manufacturing change requirement and to build less expensive dwelling units. My focus does not include any information that may be part of some future city meeting, agenda, or vote. How do I get this dialogue going while respecting the sunshine? And then would you like me to read my response back?
Sure.
Hello, Mayor. The restriction on meeting with, having discussion with fellow city council member outside of a publicly noticed meeting that is open to the public, as you know, comes from the Sunshine Law. It applies to any gathering, whether formal or casual, of two or more members of the same board, committee, or commission to discuss some matter on which foreseeable action will be taken by the public board or commission. I understand that both you and Councilmember Hyder are in real estate business, and there may be some discussions between you concerning real estate matters that would not come before City Council. However, you both should be very careful in discussing matters that may foreseeably come before Council. As you know, Ms. Hyder has talked about the need for attainable housing at Palm Coast on a few occasions during City Council meetings. As such, it is foreseeable that something to address attainable or affordable housing may come before the City Council in the future. With that being said, it is unknown exactly what will be discussed at that time. Any discussions between yourself and City Council Member Hyder would have to be limited to strictly private matters, and even there could still be a risk of a private solution could turn into something that could become before City Council. The utmost caution must be taken anytime two City Council members are speaking to or communicating with one another to avoid subjects that are of general concern for the city, as those matters could come up in a future meeting. Did you have any questions or need anything further at this time? Please feel free to contact me.
So Councilwoman Hyder did the correct thing by asking you and the city manager.
The mayor asked me about it, but Councilmember
She
Hyder
asked the city
originally asked
manager,
this.
which I assume probably then went to you, right?
No, she
I spoke to Denise.
spoke with the mayor. I mean, I don't know.
I spoke with
if
the
they-
city manager, I spoke with Denise.
Manager, I spoke to the attorney, so we probably followed the protocol for Sunshine as closely and carefully as
Yeah, I
we
mean-
I'm just
could.
curious, though, did you bring this up to the attorney, Denise?
No, I got my
Or-
question from the mayor.
Okay.
I responded to the mayor. I'm not going to copy Councilmember Hyder on that, because then I'm acting as a conduit and
Sure.
violating the Sunshine. But Councilmember Hyder didn't ask me directly, or I would have responded to her. The mayor asked me directly, and I responded to him.
So if this had been a sunshine violation, and I have the feeling you're saying that the original email from the mayor was not a sunshine violation,
No.
but had it been, what would your role be? Just so we know. Like say,
Caution and said, this is, your discussion is a potential sunshine law violation you should refrain
so
from.
it's not your responsibility as a city attorney to report it any further.
No, I don't report
You don't?
potential ethics violations.
Okay, that's
no.
all I wanted to know. Sounds like
So, my final question is, when I received the article 2 weeks later here, I don't remember whether it was at the beginning of the city council meeting or at the end of the city council meeting, that the mayor handed it to me and said, we'll just have to do this another way. And he handed me the article. And I just read the article, really, 2 days ago. And like I said, I was offended by the article and the fact that it was given to me at a city council meeting. And you had already had the discussion that it really wasn't something that should have been discussed.
Well, I'm offended by anything in the New York Times, just to be honest with you. But I did have a question here, though, because the article thing, like, say Councilman Kloufis sent me an article on how wonderful EVs are. And please stop sending those
I'd say
things.
spam
But
filters.
would that wouldn't be a violation of Sunshine, just to pass along an article, or would it?
So, there hasn't been any case law, or to my knowledge, ethics opinions regarding passing along an article that's generally available to everyone.
That's what I'm asking.
The issue comes up when it's a position statement, or you've provided an opinion, and you're passing around your position or an opinion statement to other city council members so as to get out of, or in some way not have to have that discussion in the Sunshine. So if you're not supposed to be out passing out position statements to each other on items that may come before you, and I don't know what the subject, I didn't read the article.
Would
so
you like
I
a
don't-
copy of
I
it?
don't know. You can provide it to me, but, you know, it's typically an article that's available to the general public is not necessarily a position statement unless you say, here's the article, this is my position or opinion on it.
So I want to take this a step further, just to be careful, especially since we're now into campaign season and some of us are running for office. You do a Facebook post, and it's an article that came from somewhere that supports your position, and you tag another council member on Facebook. Is that a violation?
I would advise not to do that.
But is it a violation?
So there's a lot of, as we've talked about before, transformative opinions on sunshine law and social media, and how if you are posting things and commenting back and forth on a social media post with other council members, that would be considered a
If you're
violation
commenting
of the
back and forth.
sunshine.
But, and nothing stops a council member from looking at your Facebook page and reading what you post.
Nope.
So that's not a sunshine violation. Or if they get a copy of an email blast or something your campaign is send out.
Oh, it's a specific campaign blast? I mean, if somebody got a copy of a campaign blast, you know, when you're an active candidate, there's specific rules that, well, there's been decisions that have related to like town hall meetings and being at a town hall meeting as a candidate and also as an elected official and saying what you're gonna do for the city, and that has not been found in violation.
Because you do it on, you
So-
do it on social media, you do it
So,
through email blasts now.
Whether the town hall, you know, I have not seen an opinion, an ethics opinion, or an AGO, or an opinion opining to whether or not that kind of town hall, sorry, I just lost my chain of thought, whether that town hall situation translates over to a social media platform. Because, again, it is so.
So some of this stuff,
relative.
there's not been rulings on even.
Right, because, yeah, social media, as we talked about before, we've had some cases that have come through, but the specific thing on if you like a post or something like that, I'm gonna take the position and advise you against it, just because of the
Like a post from
unknown.
another council member,
Right,
not just a post.
right, and I would advise you not to tag someone else in a thing. I think it's safer not to do that, to not involve any other council member outside of the city council meeting on something that could foreseeably come before the council.
So if I may, we have on our schedule, Vice Mayor and fellow city council members, we have a workshop coming up, city manager, approximately when?
Sorry, Mayor. Towards the end of October.
Toward the end of October, where we are going to address as many of the items that might be related or are related to ethics and sunshine in particular, but other things as well. So that would be a really good time to kind of, finish up this discussion if that's meets with everybody's approval. And I would invite you all, because Vice Mayor, I think that's a good idea, bring forward there obviously is some gray area, especially if there's no case law to refer directly back to. So we ought to get our own ducks in a row here to make sure that we are marching as well in order and forward as we possibly can. Okay?
Sounds good to me.
Very good. All right, with that, then we've started discussion. So Vice Mayor, anything else?
nothing.
Councilman Pontieri.
Just really quickly, at the joint municipality meeting, one of the things that every municipality agreed to take back to their council was the potential of discussing the homelessness issue in each of our cities in our county. I've discussed with city manager perhaps doing a workshop as to kind of what the resources are for homelessness now, in conjunction with what the county provides, and maybe what some other resources we could tap into could be in an overall effort to kind of address this countywide issue. So I would ask for consensus to maybe direct staff to put together some type of workshop in that regard.
I just want to say, Mayor, no disrespect at all to you, no disrespect to council or anyone here on the council. I just wanted to make sure that I am aware and that I am positively sure on the sunshine laws. And that is why I brought up this issue, because I was genuinely concerned about it.
Obviously. And you've taken the training? Councilwoman, the training's been provided to you for sunshine
Yes.
law? Okay, so that should be, if you need, again, we have it. Any other,
I just want to mention, and again, no disrespect to you, Councilwoman, I've heard from a lot of people in the hammock, inside the gated hammock, outside the gated hammock, and I got to be honest with you, there's not much of an appetite over there for us moving into their backyard. They seem to be very independent and very sort of like leave us alone sort of thing, and I'm just letting you know this reaction I've gotten has been very strong in the past week, and from what I hear from everyone over there, and I have to respect, where they live and their rights, is I don't think, just unless something came up that convinced me otherwise, I honestly don't think I want to, go down that road.
all right, thank you, thank you.
And again, no disrespect, but I'm just reporting back.
Okay.
I've heard from a lot of folks, and just wanted to let you know that.
Well, and I appreciate that. I want to just kind of get back to the previous issue, and then I'm happy to address that, Vice Mayor.
There's nothing, I just wanted to let you know what I've heard.
No, and I appreciate that. Do we have consensus to direct staff for the record?
I'm sorry, we did, yes.
Okay.
Everybody was in agreement with that.
Okay, thank you.
Council, yes, we do.
Okay, so just quickly, I specifically did not bring up Malacrompra here today because I have talked to our staff as well as I'm trying to explore some different options with the county to better utilize Malacompra without the maybe necessity of annexation because of concerns in the community. So I'd ask that that just be given some time. We don't have our next multi-municipality meeting until January, so there's some time to flesh out some of those ideas, bring it back to council.
Okay.
But because it hasn't been fleshed out, I'd just like to just kind of let you know that I'm not closed off to other ideas. I'm trying to explore other ways to best utilize Malacompra because I do recognize what you're saying.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I've heard a
Okay.
lot from folks, and you know, it's not one person said, please annex.
Okay.
Just letting you know, not one person.
Okay, I have a final comment from a city council member. I'll save mine to the end. I've taken some time to carefully review the funding agreement related to Old Kings Road. I've gone through it extremely carefully. This was a discussion that you brought up, I believe, at the last meeting. I'm going to ask council now to update us on what staff has presented, because I think it's in the spirit of collaboration. I think it's a wonderful step forward. So, Councilor, if you could update us, I'd appreciate it.
As you all know, I think we mentioned this when the matter came up previously. The city had a meeting with the Old Kings Road Special Assessment District Committee on, I think it was September 14th of last week. After that meeting, some of the comments, there were a number of comments that came out that the city looked at and is providing information on. One of them was the ask by the committee for our engineering department, Mr. Coate, to look at the scope of the engineering design work that was proposed for this project. And after reviewing it, the city was able to determine that the scope could be reduced. And so that's been now reflected, this reduction in the scope has been reflected in the line item in the budget that will come to you tomorrow. And the city manager can confirm that as she's charged with the budget.
How is that reflected? What, has it changed? Has the item labeling changed, or where are we?
Yes, the line item of reference that was $750,000 has been updated to reflect $250,000. And I have discussed this with staff in our finance department, that it would not affect the second hearing per se. It would not unravel any portion of the budget. And Elena can come up and just kind of summarize.
What was the committee, did they reach a consensus with the city, or they all on board?
Yes, well, sorry, do you want to have Helena answer first?
Sure.
And then we can.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. So we have our final public hearing tomorrow. It is scheduled here at City Hall at 5:15. The advertisement for the budget was on the Sunday newspaper. So tomorrow, at tomorrow's hearing, you can direct staff to reduce the project budget from capital outlay. And what we'll do, the amount that was originally budgeted will then be transferred to contingency and transferred to fund balance to be used at a future date.
Thank you.
And the question you asked me, Mr. DiLorenzo can comment if you need additional information.
Go ahead.
So.
Sure.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. Yes, we met on the 14th. I led the conversation for the city with the committee. Near the end, they asked about the ability for the city to reduce the scope, and we had a conversation about what that might mean for the scope itself. We have a draft scope that we discussed with the committee, and so working through that effort of reducing the scope on what engineering we would be able to complete with a certain amount of dollars, we were able to go back. Carl looked at what that might mean for the budget, and then we were able to meet their recommendation of reducing it to $250,000.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, I mean, we have to, listen, I have to congratulate staff and city manager for going the extra mile. This has been in the works for how many years?
long time.
A really long time. So coming to this, it's like tie the knot. Let's move forward. Thank you very much to all of your staff for doing that. That completes.
Well, real quick, if I could, just also extend condolences to Mr. DiLorenzo for what happened to the New York Jets yesterday, or on Sunday.
All right, so that completes. That's terrible. That's a low one, man. Oh boy, that completes final comments by city council members. Does the city attorney have any final comments?
I have none.
Then I would go to the city manager. Would you like to make any final comments?
I do, only because it's part of your agenda of emergency sole source
Yes.
purchases. If there's any questions, now would be the time.
No. City council members have indicated they have no questions.
With that, I have nothing further, Mayor.
Very good. Then I guess it comes to that time when I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Righty.